Welcome, everyone, to game two. Long time no see of our Zach Costello Show doubleheader today. If you weren't able to catch the last live stream with Elizabeth Lane, you missed out. It was a banger. You need to go watch it. But after this one, of course, I'm very excited. I've been looking forward to this one now for a couple of weeks for the great Baron Coleman to join us live on the Zach Costello Show. As someone who looks at things from more of a higher level, more of a, I guess you can say, visionary point of view, commenting on the different political and cultural issues of our time, I have a very deep appreciation and admiration for truly skilled investigators. Baron Coleman has emerged as the cream of the crop throughout this Charlie Kirk investigation. He's become sort of a right-hand man for Candace Owens and a nightmare to anyone trying to hide the truth about what happened to Charlie Kirk. For example, and I'm playing off Lionel Nation here, but I want to show you something that I had reposted of Baron Coleman on X. He was asking here for more information about shadow measurements of the alleged Tyler Robinson based on the angle of the sun. And my first thought is like, how in the hell does someone think this way? Who decides, oh, I can verify if this photo is authentic by pulling out my sun angle measurement on his shadow? So it is incredible, and it's just so cool. And as you can see here, they didn't know we had investigators who were measuring people's shadows at certain times of day based on the location of the sun. They didn't know that we had investigators who tracked every U.S. flight path. And then I say, they didn't know we had a Baron Coleman. What I think is cool, though, is, and I talk about this, you guys have heard me talk about this, the body of Christ and the different purposes and services that each and every one of us have. I am perhaps a mouth. I've got a big mouth. Others are fingers, feet, muscles, etc. Baron, I think, is somewhere around the eyes and brain. The eyes are an extension of the brain, so I think that follows. But now, having gotten familiar with Baron's work and truly being a fan, I am so happy and honored to introduce, as I said, the great Baron Coleman on the Zach Costello Show. Baron, welcome.
I just want to leave at this point. I don't even want to stay and diminish anything you just said. That was very kind of you, sir. Thank you.
Well, I mean every word. And you know, that I know you were just on Lionel Nation. That was a phenomenal episode. That's another one for you guys to all go see if you haven't seen it yet. But I'll never forget when he just hilariously brought that up, and you'll get a little bit to that more in a second. But Baron, you just passed 100 episodes on YouTube. The community and platform that you have built in such a small amount of time is truly incredible. I personally love hearing and talking about people and like the come up, like their come ups, and why they chose to pursue their work. Can you tell us about the man himself, Baron Coleman, who you are, what you've done, and how you eventually decided to do what you are doing now?
Yeah, I was saying this on my radio show, the podcast the other day. I was a radio broadcaster. I really enjoyed it. I did it for 7 years full time. I did it for 4 years prior to that part time, and I really enjoyed it. Fill-in work, guest hosting work, things like that before I did it full time. And I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed being behind a microphone. I enjoyed talking to people. I enjoyed the craft of talk radio. I grew up, I was a Rush baby. My parents listened to Rush Limbaugh, Dave Ramsey. When I went to college, of course, I did listen to the cool music in the mid-90s like everybody did, but I also listened to the local AM talk station in the college town, and would drive around the middle of the day bumping Sean Hannity. So it was a it was something I always had a passion for. I always enjoyed broadcasting, enjoyed radio. And I would listen to local call-in shows, and someone would call in and ask the host a question, and I would turn the radio down and answer as if I was the radio host.
Mm-hmm.
I always figured if I had the shot, I wanted to take it to get into radio. And a friend of mine got a show back in 2009 or 10 and asked me to sit in with him 2 days a week from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And I did. I had a great time. Unfortunately, he didn't last very long. He got bruned pretty quick. And then I started doing fill-in work on other stations. So I always had in the back of my mind, this is something I wanted to do. In the meantime, I was trained as a lawyer, and I practiced as a lawyer. I practiced insurance defense at a small firm, started trying cases very early, went to work in the more corporate setting with one of the top 50 banks in the country, doing some of their in-house legal work, and then did medical malpractice work. And then after that, I went out on my own and I started really assisting nonprofits, political campaigns, 501c3s, 501c4s, helping keeping them legal, doing that kind of stuff. And then I had a good trial practice going at the same time, criminal trial practice going at the same time. And I really, that's kind of where it all came together for me. And, you know, there were hard months when you work for yourself. There are months you don't make any money at all. There are months when you make a lot of money, and there are in between months where you just sort of piddling along doing okay. And each step of the way, each time I changed a job, each time there was a success or a failure or a setback, my wife and I would kind of be like, is this really my calling in life? I'm just supposed to piddle along as a sort of a lawyer doing this and that, struggling some months and just sort of making it, sort of getting by. Obviously, if you know much about local talk radio, you're not going to get rich doing that. So, you know, is this sort of my calling in life? Is just to sort of be a broadcaster, be a lawyer, but or is there something more out there? So I finally put radio behind me in 2020. I left the full-time radio show at that time, and I left the full-time practice of private law, and I went in-house, first for an IT company, and then later for a healthcare data analytics company. And so for the last 4 or 5 years, I've been an in-house lawyer. I was started out as just sort of the low-level in-house lawyer and worked my way up to where I was basically the director of operations for the last company I worked for, plus the general counsel, plus the HR guy, plus the everything else. I mean, I kind of oversaw everything. And I had a lot of fun doing that. But at the same time, I was doing the podcasting just once a week because I enjoyed broadcasting. I was come on Sunday night at 7:00 every week, even on the Super Bowl. And I would broadcast to 20 to 50 people. And that was kind of my live audience. And I had a good time with it, but it kept me in the practice. And broadcasting's a little bit like golf in that you might know the rules of it, but if you don't do it regularly, you're not going to be very good at it. And so, in September, after the Charlie Kirk thing, I started covering that a little bit, and things started picking up. I started getting more of an audience. Ian caught on, started promoting me a little bit. He did. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for him stumbling over my show. And then Candace and I met up, and we became friendly and started sharing ideas and sharing a microphone eventually, and that helped quite a bit. And at a certain point, I sort of looked at my wife and I said, I feel like I'm not able to do a good job broadcasting right now because I have to work 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day. And then I only have an hour or so to prep for a show. And then I do a show in the evenings. And so I started doing 1 show a week, 2 show a week, 3 show a week. And then finally I had to make a decision. Am I going to do full-time podcasting, or am I going to, quit the podcast, go back to 1 day a week, appreciate the audience for hanging out with me, but focus more on my legal career. And I gave up the practice of law. I left my job, and I'm doing this full-time now. And now I look back, now that I've got clarity, I can look back every single setback, every single job experience, every single thing I endured from the time I graduated law school in May of 2006 until January of this year when I went full-time broadcasting, set me up for this. Every single thing set me up for this. Every piece of experience, every political campaign, every lobbying gig, every job I worked in-house, they all set me up so that I would have the experience and the confidence to weigh in on topics that pop up daily in the news. So that's the best answer I can give you.
Yeah, that's really good. And that resonates a lot with me. I mean, I obviously we didn't have the same career paths. Like mine was entrepreneurial as well and small business, but various different things. And I always look and see like the different successes and failures that I have, preparing me for what I feel like is the work that God made me for. Which is to put my voice out there and to fight for the truth. I mean, as far as, so I mean, one of my additional questions to you was going to be, I mean, obviously you had a successful career as an attorney before starting here on YouTube. It sounds like you were doing both kind of simultaneously. You had the career as the attorney, but you were doing the broadcasting, or I would assume YouTube, kind of on the side during that time frame. I mean, what ultimately, it sounds like, I mean, was the Charlie Kirk assassination what caused you to go full time, or did that happen afterward, after you started to gain traction? What kind of was the moment where you were like, I have to do this full time?
No, it was, I mean, the Charlie Kirk investigation certainly brought the audience. But I think had the audience come for any other reason, I probably would have made the same decision, because this is a passion. Practicing law, I mean, as much as I love healthcare data analytics, I mean, it has its limitations as far as fun on a daily basis. You can only learn so much about HIPAA, and then you kind of are a HIPAA lawyer, and now what? And so I am I know HIPAA inside and out from the healthcare data analytics side. I know employment law to the extent I needed to know it for my job, but I was basically just grinding out hours at work. There's not a lot of passion on that side. Whereas with this, it's more of a passion project. I jump in, I enjoy every day. I wake up eager to fire up the computer, see which way the show's going to go that day. Sometimes I'll have 2 weeks of shows mapped out ahead of time. Some days you wake up and you think, what are we going to talk about today? And so I enjoy the investigative side. I enjoy getting lost in things. You talked about shadows. I spent 3 hours yesterday looking at shadows. I did, because I got an email, and even though I tell people I don't read the email, sometimes I do. I got an email and somebody said, hey, have we ever looked at the shadows of the guy running off the roof? And when he jumped down, do they add up? Is it possible they spliced that individual into the frame? Is it possible it was recorded a different day, a different time? Are the cars the same? So I pulled up the satellite imagery. I purchased that program to where you can log on and see the satellite imagery. It's pretty fascinating. I got satellite images of Orem, Utah from September 10th. Wasn't cheap, but we got it. So I was able to confirm the cars were the same. They were all parked in the exact same spot. Some cars closer to the left line than the right line, some closer to the curb than others. So I knew the parking lot. I'm talking about that famous FBI footage where he runs across the top of the Losi Center and then Spider-Man's down the corner.
Yep.
So I knew the cars lined up, and I knew the shadows on the other people. I could see which way they were falling. I could see which way the shadows were falling on the light poles. So I opened up a program and started moving the map in all different directions and looking at him every step of the way to see what precisely time of day would that have been taken. At first, I thought it was an hour off. And then I realized I was not correcting for Central Time. So
you got to get on God's time. No, you don't want to be on God's time there, right?
I just assumed everybody was on God's time, daylight time. We were not. Orem, Utah was on Mountain Time on that day. And or I think it's always on Mountain Time, but on that particular day, they were an hour behind us here. And so I realized, no, it very much, those shadows very much line up with a 12:25-ish departure from the top of the roof.
So for those of you guys that don't know, one of the biggest hangups or conflicts that Barron and I had in booking today's live show was just getting on agreement with to what time we were going to be on here. And I'm on the East Coast, so I'm on Eastern Standard Time. Barron is on Central Time, so CST. And I keep communicating like, hey, we're going to go at 2:30. We're going to go at 2:30 p.m. And Barron's like, wait, is that 2:30 p.m. your time or God's time? And God's time is basically Central Time. That's the argument that Barron is making here.
Yeah. Can I share something you shared on my member show that your folks may not have heard? Zach is terrified of being landlocked. So he will never live in a state where they don't have access to the ocean. I don't know what he does in his spare time. I have no idea why he thinks he might need to flee by sea. But he will never live in Tennessee because we're not bordered by an ocean, even though he's a good way.
We've discussed, there's a term that came up, and I think it's like something like continent, like claustrophobia or something like that. I don't know. There was a term that one of your members had brought up that I thought was good, but it's some form of claustrophobia. So it's some form of phobia that I have with living in a landlocked state.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe you guys in the chat can help us out there. But we were talking about, and I think that's, I don't want to get too sidetracked here, but because I want to continue to talk about this come up. I want to talk about Ian Carroll and then your relationship with Candace and how all of this kind of came about. But with regard to being in a landlocked state, we were talking about this because I am from Virginia. I'm a Virginian. I'm a proud Virginian. However, Virginia is becoming increasingly difficult to live in. And, we just had a special election today that I voted in because they're trying to, the Democrats led by Abigail Spanberger just took over the entire Virginia House and the governor's seat. And now they're trying to redraw the district maps to basically just, try to grasp their hold on power. And the ballot read that they're doing this in order to restore fairness in the Commonwealth. So this is just becoming a massive power grab. But then they've also introduced laws like, they've basically taken away Second Amendment rights in the state of Virginia. That's relatively new. Parental consent. So basically, if you and your child disagree on something, the court can stand in to be a decision maker for your child. So a lot of things. So anyway, what that got us talking is like, okay, well, if we're going to move somewhere, where are we going to move? And one of Barron's recommendations was Tennessee. And that's where the whole, I don't know if I can live in a landlocked state came from.
We have rivers if you have to get away by water.
If you need to escape down a river, you can do that. All right. I'll have to.
Cumberland River runs right through town. You can jump on the river and make it to the Mississippi and be in the Gulf Coast in no time.
Well, we may also have to bring up, I think I saw somebody here in the chat, because one of the things that also came up from your members show was I apparently have ginger denial. So, I may have dirty blonde or strawberry blonde hair. It seems like the consensus was that got voted in your members chat was that I am a ginger, that I have a strawberry blonde hair, and I blamed it on the lighting. So I haven't spent thousands of dollars on lighting since my member show with you in order to try to get this right. But in any case, that also came up. But I did see here in the chat that you are guilty of also maybe denying that you have a Southern accent. So it seems like I saw someone in the chat that said
denial. You don't have one. There's nothing to deny.
Oh, you don't have one?
No. Do you think I do?
You got a little Southern twang in your voice. A little bit. Yeah, a little bit. I would say you do. Just as much as I have red in my hair is as much as you have Southern twang in your voice.
Oh, gosh, I'm doomed then. I'm doomed.
Oh, that's hilarious. But all right. In any case, so I want you to elaborate. So for those of those listening who don't know, you mentioned Ian Carroll kind of being that first individual that started to shout out your work. If I remember correctly, that would be what you would refer to as your Google Trends days, right? So can you let everybody know kind of what you were doing and then how all of that came into fruition?
Yeah. So I've been using Google Trends as a tool for a decade and a half as part of my consulting practice. It's a very, very powerful tool. And along the way, I started trying to use it a little creatively. Whenever there was a mass shooting or some kind of weird incident, I would think, man, is it possible somebody had Googled these locations or Googled these individuals ahead of time? And I started looking in Washington, D.C. for a lot of answers, and I would find these weird patterns that would pop up. And I got a ton of hits around the Thomas Matthew Crooks deal in Butler, Pennsylvania. And so when the Charlie Kirk event happened, a couple of days later, a guy at work said, you should do your Google Trends trick and see if there's anything there. And so I started doing it, and I started finding everything, like all kinds of hits all over this case, more than I'd ever found in any case I'd ever looked at. Period. End of story. It wasn't even close. 7 of the surgeons at the hospital, the medical examiner, the lawyers, the judge, Lance Twiggs, Tyler Robinson, all being searched in Washington, D.C., and curiously, in this case, overseas in our greatest ally. And so I started emailing people saying, you guys need to cover this. This is a story. And I emailed Ian, I emailed Candace. Like, I get tips. I was trying to give them tips, and I would include screenshots and write-ups, and here's how you could cover it, and here's what you could say, and here's how you would intro it, and here's the background on Google Trends. And like, I was setting up a whole show for them. And obviously never heard back from anyone. Ian later told me he doesn't check emails, and Candace told me she gets 50,000 a month. And so I get it. You can't possibly read 50,000 emails a month. It's just impossible. So it's hit or miss whether anyone's ever going to see your emails when you send them or not. So I thought, okay, well, I've got a podcast, and I had a friend of mine in South Alabama who was like, why don't you just cover it yourself? And I was like, I'm afraid I'll die. I'm a nobody. You know, if I start saying this stuff, someone's going to like throw a rock through my window.
Right.
And you know, you got to have an audience to protect you. You know, the best place to hide is right out in public. And so I thought, you know what, screw it, let's do it. And so I did the first show on a Sunday night to my 20 to 50 people in the audience. And a few people started saying on Twitter, you should check this out. There's something to this. This is weird. And so then I did another week's worth of research. I found probably 20 more hits that were really strange. The usernames they were using on Discord, phrases they were using, like, and I was getting these same hits in Washington, D.C. and overseas and Our Greatest Ally. And so I thought, okay, I'll do another show. I'll just do a second, like a follow-up show. Well, then I ended up doing like 6 or 8 of these shows because I kept finding more and more stuff. And I don't want to say I got lucky because it's a horrible tragedy, but in the midst of this, there was a couple of mass shootings. There was one in Michigan, I think, and one in North Carolina. So I did the Google Trends on those as well and found out where those also had hits in Washington, D.C. And I said, all right, guys, I don't know what to tell you. There's something to this. Like this is not random. And I have a strategy I use. Like I will, if I find something in one country, I'll look at all the countries around them. You know, is it just this name for whatever reason gets searched a lot? If I find it in one state, I look at all the states around it. I look at California, Texas, New York, typically Florida, because those are big states. So they would be more likely to hit. And when I find that it doesn't look like it's noise, that it actually looks like it's signal, that's kind of when I would choose to broadcast it. And so I've done 5 or 6 of these shows, and I noticed my audience had grown from like 20 to 50 live to a few hundred at a time. And I thought, okay, people must be interested in this. And so I'm driving down the road one day. I told my wife I need to go get gas. I leave. I put the phone up on the dashboard because it's Friday at 5 p.m. and Ian Carroll's coming on for Free Speech Friday. And he intros and he's like, man, I found something so cool. And I've done a lot of research, and there's a podcaster out there who's covering something nobody's talking about. And I was like, awesome. I'm ready to hear this. And he was like, his name is Baron Coleman. And I was like, oh no. And so I looked when he said that, I looked at how many subscribers I had on YouTube, and it was like under 3,000. And by the end of the weekend, it was at maybe 11,000. So it was just this tremendous crush of new people. And then when I went live that next Sunday, there were like 800 or 1,000 people watching. And I was like, oh no, wow, this is starting to take off.
Wow.
And so then he did a follow-up show a week or so later on it. And it just kept getting more and more. And then, you know, all of a sudden there were 10,000 people watching a live and 20,000 people watching a live. And the subscriptions had gone from 3,000 to, you know, 30,000, 50,000, 60,000. And they were coming in fast and furious. And so Ian would jump in my live chats while I was on, and he would drop supers and tell everyone to like the video and share it. And he just did I have no idea why he took a liking. It was unexpected. It was greatly appreciated. But yeah, I don't think the show would have quite taken off the way it did without his help.
Well, I think he took a liking because he saw the quality of research that was being done. I mean, I think that it's what I find interesting about YouTube is you can get a lot of people on here talking about things that, I mean, they don't really know what they're talking about. And YouTube can be a bad place, but it can also be a very good place in that you can have people with actual, like, true level of expertise and investigative experience like you do, given your background. Like you said, everything that you've done has kind of led you up to this point. And I think that one of the cool things is I feel like on YouTube that I feel like if you are doing like truly good work and someone like an Ian Carroll does notice you, I feel like one of the coolest things, and it's a testament to Ian as well, to recognize, you know, something that's quality and to have, I mean, I would probably say the humility to be able to take a smaller channel and vouch for it, kind of like he did. But I don't think he would do that unless it was something that was legit, right? Because his reputation's on the line too. It's, you know, it's like any referral.
Yeah. And I've experienced that a little bit. As you mentioned, people online, you know, your audience will go to them. And I've noticed that. So at first I was very quick to tell people to go watch people, and then you get burned.
Yes.
I've held back a little bit on that. Now, I have strategically done that a few times when I find somebody that I want to use their material, but they don't particularly like me. I will fawn all over them. Oh, go check this person out. Subscribe to them. They're amazing. Great work. Well, then if they attack me, they look like idiots. You know, they look like horrible human beings because here I am fawning all over them, and then they turn around and attack me. So,
like your shadow work, right?
correct. And so it's, but I'll be honest. The guy nailed that. I mean, he was the first to, and I missed it. He was the first to call out that shadow didn't match.
Mm-hmm.
What I was looking for when I went to Twitter on that was I recognized the shadow didn't match. I didn't see his work. I'd not heard of that. I'd not heard of his work on the shadow issue. I'd heard of him. But I hadn't seen that video. So I put on Twitter and I was like, can someone double check my math on this? I didn't want to give my answer because I didn't want to poison the well, but can someone double check my math? Because it doesn't seem like this shadow time adds up, but you tell me what you find. Go use a shadow calculator, you get out a protractor, whatever you need. And then somebody in the comments was like, hey, you should check out Gray Hughes. His work on this is really good. And I found it. I found that video he did on it, and it was good. And he didn't go with shadow length. He went with shadow angle, which is a little different than the attack I was doing. I was looking more at the length of the shadow, but the angle worked fine. It came up with the exact same answer. I had it pegged at about 10:15. I think he had it pegged at like 10:07, 10:08. Okay. It's not 8:07 when they said it was.
Right. And I think that's the important point as far as that data point that you were looking for when you were looking at the different, you were looking at shadow length versus angle during that time frame. And so just explain what you were able to find was that given the timestamp that they or the FBI told us that individual was walking in front of that house, it does not add up with where the sun and the shadow should have been during that time frame. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. And the reason I even started looking at it was I was going over the probable cause statement, and they said that Tyler Robinson had arrived on campus at 8:29 or something, parked, walked around for an hour, and left. Okay, interesting. Which leads me to believe they didn't have him on campus any other time, or else they would have mentioned it. So I went back and looked at any evidence I could find where he had arrived near the 8 o'clock hour, 8:30, and I found that image, and it said 8:07. And I'm lucky that it had the image next to it where it said it was at 11:50 or something, because I thought, man, did the sun not move that day? Like 8:07, the shadow should be long.
Mm-hmm.
So I went and got a shadow calculator, and I used 2 or 3 different ones online, and I thought, no, that shadow should be almost 30 feet long. He's 5'10". Why is the shadow look like it's 8 or 9 feet long tops? And I thought that can't be the right time of day. So I started maneuvering the shadow calculator till I found the right length. And I thought, okay, this doesn't add up with the timeline they've given us. Because if he shows up on campus at 8:29, he walks around for an hour and leaves, why would he then turn around and walk right back on campus? Like that they didn't tell us he walked right back on campus. Why did he walk right back on campus? And then I thought, well, maybe it was a different day. Maybe it was a dry run, but then you have to involve the homeowners and all this. There's something weird going on with that image. I have no idea why they attribute that to 8:07. It is clearly not 8:07. It is either a different day, and to be that shadow near that time on a different day, I've played with the map. It would have to be months apart, 3, 4, 5 months different. Or if it's that day, it's a different time, a couple hours different. So, I don't know which is correct. But
what you have basically identified is that the time stamp that they have on that image is incorrect.
That's correct. Yeah, it is absolutely incorrect.
Have you seen the extended video of that individual turning by the bushes?
Yeah, so that's the later one. That's the 1150. And
okay.
I think the original narrative was he took that 800 north, I think it is, the road all the way down to the end, and then crossed over a little culvert. But if you watch the extended cut of that video, he does not. He goes to the end of that driveway. He stops. He pauses behind a bush. I don't know what he's doing, checking his phone, looking at seeing what the wind direction. I don't know. But then he walks backwards into the backyard of that house. Now, if you go that way, you can also get over that same culvert just at a different location. So it's possible we misunderstood what they meant by that. But I think it's at least worth pointing out that the official narrative that everybody believes is can't be correct.
Can't be correct. Right. So going back to the Google Trends. So with regard to what you were able to find, how has that played out over time since you initially discovered those names that were being searched, and were those names that were being searched about specific individuals prior to the Big Bang event that you guys call it on your high IQ outfit?
Yeah. So they've broken Google Trends. It's not nearly as good a tool as it used to be. And I think they did it in response to the Tyler Robinson case. It was working the old-fashioned way, and I'll explain the way that was working. But it was working that way up through the Nancy Guthrie case. Megyn Kelly got on air and said, "Oh my gosh, someone was searching this woman's name a month before. We need to subpoena the records from Google and figure out who that was." And I thought, yes. And while you're at it, subpoena the records from Google Trends about Tyler Robinson's case, because it's all over it. Shortly after that, they changed it and they started blocking everything by week instead of by day. And that did alter the results somewhat, because if you have very few results in very few searches in a given day, and if you're just a lone person out there searching, or you're a small operation and you're searching and you just fire a couple of searches in on somebody's name, you search Zach Costello, you probably aren't going to search it 100 times or 50 times. You're probably just going to search it once or twice. You get the information you need and you move on. By collapsing everything from one day to a week, what they've done is they've smoothed out those small number of hits and they don't show up anymore. And so if you rerun all those searches now, they've basically statistically gotten rid of them. So I'm glad the videos are still up on Rumble and YouTube, that you can go back and watch those original shows, because they're pretty fascinating. But what they showed was, starting in March or April, it looks like there were the beginnings of a planning to remove Charlie Kirk, and you started finding the players being identified by Google. By June and July, the planning was in overdrive. By mid-June, shortly after the Student Action Summit, where Dave Smith absolutely hammered Josh Hammer in a debate, where Tucker Carlson got up there, Megyn Kelly was there, and everybody was throwing a fit that Charlie Kirk had allowed these quote-unquote anti-Semites on his platform, on his stage. The planning seemed to go into overdrive, or at least the searches for all these people started going into overdrive. And then by mid-July, it was just insane. The number of searches were just, it was lunacy. And that's when you started getting the searches of the medical examiner, the special agent in charge in Utah, the person who would become the special agent in charge in Utah, the police chiefs, the sheriffs, the surgeons at the hospital itself, other doctors at the hospital, witnesses around town, people who ended up on television in front of microphones over and over. They started being searched. And if you take it all together and you're conspiratorially minded, and I am, you see this vast quantity of data that should not exist. And any one or two of these things, okay, maybe someone randomly searched some woman in Orem, Utah, and they did it from Washington, D.C., or they did it from Tel Aviv. But that could be random. You can't say it's random when you get all these data points.
Right.
It becomes, no longer is it possible, it's just a statistical outlier. It's a pattern. You know, I always say once is a random occurrence, twice is a coincidence, 3 times is a pattern. We have dozens, maybe hundreds of times where these people were searched, and they weren't searched in Germany. They weren't searched in France. They weren't searched in Arizona. They weren't searched in Nebraska. They were searched in Washington, D.C., and they were searched in Israel. And that's what led me to believe there may be foreign involvement. I wish Joe Kent had been able to investigate that a little further, but he wasn't able to.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, do you think that what you're talking about there, I mean, I would say that those are potential leads that point to a foreign nexus, as Joe Kent described, that perhaps he was vouching that just be pursued, to just ensure that, you know, that there was nothing there ultimately. Like if they ended up being a dead end, then please just then fine, but at least pursue them.
Well, not only is it a lead, it's something that can easily be verified. Send Google a subpoena and say, we want the searches for these names on these dates and the IP addresses associated with them. Who are these people? Now, it's possible somebody just had their VPN set up to Washington, D.C., and they were in Texas, or they were in Nebraska, or they were in Utah. Tell us that. You know, I think that's a lead that should be run down. If I'm the sheriff or the governor over in Utah, I want to know who is searching 7 of my surgeons in a 2-week period in the middle of July, and why. Yeah. I want to know, because a high-profile figure died in my county and was transported to that hospital where those surgeons were searched. Now, if we find out it's just somebody who had a surgery scheduled and they were really eager to know the intimate biographical details of every single surgeon in the hospital, fine. That's great. But if it's the same IP addresses hitting all these searches, you really have to start to wonder, did somebody use Google as a tool to do some scouting where they look at, because they were looking at particular addresses, like the address where the gun was eventually recovered. They were looking at the Dairy Queen where he showed up. They were looking all kinds of places.
Which maybe it was from your show. Maybe you were talking about it recently. That to me, that there was evidence that address where the gun was left behind in the backyard, correct?
Mm-hmm.
That address was being searched prior to the assassination.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's an insane piece of information.
Now it's possible that somebody just wanted to look up the address because their friend lived there and they were going over for dinner, right?
But when yes, if it's just a one-off search.
But why in those jurisdictions? Like, I want to know who in Washington D.C. wanted to know about that address,
right?
Because that eliminates the whole. I was just going over for dinner. You don't look up their address for dinner from Washington D.C. and from overseas. So again, it's a lead. It should be explored. A human being was slaughtered in broad daylight. We should find out who was involved, no matter where it goes.
Right.
And the fact that nobody wants to investigate these leads is concerning.
Right. So then as time went by, so you have the Google Trends, and then you eventually get to the point where you're invited on to Candace Owens' podcast. Take us through the development of that. So from Google Trends to when you were invited on Candace and when you caught her attention, which I'm sure probably Ian had something to do with, given that they communicate. Take us through that development. What were you finding? What were you putting out there? And then kind of let us know the development of the case, but then also the development of your relationship.
Yeah, so I did 6, 8, 10 Google Trends shows, and I actually was kind of worried initially, like, was my audience going to go away if I'm no longer the Google Trends guy and I'm just looking at, the movements under the tent afterwards, and I'm looking at potential angles and I'm covering what potential rounds this could have been and covering the injuries to the neck and all that. So I started doing other shows because I didn't want to be the Google Trends guy. I wanted to go back to just broadcasting regular shows and covering whatever was in the news.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly don't remember how we got put in touch with each other. I know at one point Ian said, "Hey, if you ever want to get something to Candace, let me know. I'll be happy to pass along any messages." And I was like, I don't want to be that guy. I'm sure she gets lots of tips. Lots of people want to get her attention. I'll do my show. She can do her show. I have great respect for her coverage of a lot of issues, but I don't want to be like, "Oh, listen to me, whatever." But at some point
you almost want to earn the right for her to reach out to you. Yeah, I can relate to that. Yeah.
Yeah. At some point we started texting, and I don't even remember how that happened. I don't remember if Ian gave me her number or he gave her my number, but somehow we started texting, and we texted back and forth very, I would hear something or she would hear something, and we would exchange ideas on it, maybe an angle to try to cover it. And then one day I'm walking through Lowe's and my phone rings and I look down and I'm like, "Oh, it's her." And so I picked up the phone and we chatted, and she was like, "I want to have you on the show." She's like, "Why don't we meet up and just chat and let's just see what we have, show our cards." And so we met up at a coffee shop and sat there for 3 hours and just chatted. And it was so refreshing because the guard comes down at that point. I'm not broadcaster Baron. She's not broadcaster Candace. We're just two people with an interest in the same topic.
Yeah.
And here's who I've talked to. Here's what I've heard. Oh, here's who I've talked to. Here's what I've heard. And, let's put this together. And she is so good at putting puzzles together. So you hear something, you mention it, and she's like, "Oh," brr. And like I talked to her today. I have a feeling I know where she's going this afternoon on her show based on her.
She has described herself as being elite at putting puzzles together.
So. She really is. It's incredible. It's incredible. I was over at her house the day before Easter, and And I just offhandedly mentioned something. I don't want to say what it was because she hadn't talked about it yet. But I offhandedly mentioned something I had heard. And I mean, instantly she went, oh, hold on. And you could see the wheels start to spin. And she's like, that actually fits perfect. And then she started naming all these facts, dates, times, texts, emails, And this piece fit right. It was the missing link, right? It's the fossil of the half monkey, half man, right in the middle. And it put the whole thing together in her mind. And I thought, man, that is elite. That is elite puzzle putting together. But then finally she was like, come on the show, come over. I don't remember, Monday or Tuesday, whatever it was. And went over there. Her staff is great. Her family's great. George is great. We had a great time and just chatted and did a show and chatted a little more. And then I went home. But she's a very valuable resource. Like, she knows a lot. She knows so much more than she's covered. And, I don't know why she doesn't cover everything she knows, but it's, there's something to be said when you're playing poker. You don't show every card every time. So,
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, that is one of the main things that I think started to get me attracted, you can say, to what Candace Owens was covering in this Charlie Kirk investigation early on. I mean, I've admitted this to my audience, but at the very beginning, I was of the mindset, I was still in the left versus right mindset, to where, I believe that a crazy leftist transgender individual shot Charlie Kirk. I mean, I believe that in the days that came. And then when Candace started coming out with, her different arguments and started introducing the Hamptons meeting and kind of calling out Bibi Netanyahu, I was like, is this a distraction from like what the actual truth is here? And then as time just started going by, I mean, it wasn't that much time. It was maybe like a week. I saw this just kind of, it was literally like a coordinated attack against her, where I could see accounts blatantly lying about her. It was Eric Bowling on the Patrick Bet-David podcast that I'll just never forget, because he started to put out that lie that Charlie Kirk had a silent breakup with Candace. They no longer remain friends. And you've heard this Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens weren't friends narrative that they continually push out every now and then. I think Tracy Martin was doing the same thing. I don't know, like maybe a couple weeks ago, or maybe even last week with Gary Melton on his show. But they kind of go back to that argument again and again. But you had guys like Dave Rubin, and you had a lot from that camp just kind of jump in and say, like, I can attest this is true, what he's saying. And then it just turned out that that was just a complete lie. And even Andrew Colvett at the time verified that actually wasn't true. And he verified that Candace and Charlie had remained friends. So when I started to see this kind of coordinated attack against Candace and just them accusing her of things that were blatant lies, it started to cause me to be like, hold on, like, what's going on here? And then I've just followed her, I mean, very closely. I've seen probably just about every episode she's put out since this Charlie Kirk assassination event took place. And I think a lot of people who criticize her and, accuse her of all sorts of things and diagnose her with all sorts of, whatever they want to, diagnose her with as far as mental illness goes, whatever it may be, what they continually do is get caught in lies. But I don't think any of them actually watch and try to learn from her show and what she's providing. Because for a lot of the people that actually really do watch it to try and learn what's going on, because as you said, she has incredible reach. She has more resources and more connections than anybody else relating to this case. And I don't doubt that she has and just incredible, vast amount of information at her fingertips here. There's a lot of responsibility in that, because the amount of vetting that she has to do on a daily basis to determine what's legit and what's not, because she's also got probably masses of people that are trying to throw her off of what's true, right? So there's a huge responsibility there. But I just don't think that anybody who is criticizing her, I don't think they truly watch her show to actually learn the things that she's saying. I think they just try to find little clips that they can use to try to like trap her in a gotcha, which fails 99.9% of the time, right? Like if they do get her on anything, it's probably at where she was like speculating, or she was, being facetious or being sarcastic about something, and then they try to relate that to being a lie. But I don't know, I've grown just a tremendous appreciation for the value that she has brought forth, not just in this Charlie Kirk assassination, but now she's got me believing that Emmanuel Macron is a man, right? Like,
you got a little Macron.
I've had to go back and just check myself on all the other things that I doubted her on. And Candace, I admit I was wrong, right? So.
Well, and I feel this way about a lot of people. You can measure the value of what someone's saying by the attacks they receive. So if somebody's out there, let's just take a ludicrous conspiracy theory, right? Somebody's out there and they say, a wood desk. If you have a wood desk, it's going to give you cancer, right? And they go on YouTube and they're like preaching against wood desks. And they're like, you really should have some sort of carbon graphite desk, not a wood desk. A wood desk is dangerous. No one's going to attack that person. Like no one's coming for that person. No one's going to call them crazy, demonic. They might be like, yeah, I don't know what they're talking about, but they're not going to waste any airtime on it. They're not going to coordinate an X campaign against that person. They're just not going to listen to that person. So when Tucker gets attacked, it causes you to stand up and look and say, what is he saying? Why is there this massive coordinated attack? I felt that way about Alex Jones for years. What is going on here? Alex, and I may disagree with him on a lot of things he says, but I value what he says because of the measure of attacks. And I see that now taking place with Candace, particularly on a few issues. One is what took place at Fort Huachuca. The moment she mentioned that, the attacks came out of the woodwork. I mean, they just absolutely came out of the woodwork. It happened again with Victor Marx last week. She mentioned Victor Marx's name, and people went crazy and started attacking her again anew. And I thought, okay, well, there must be something to this then, because she said a lot of things and they don't attack her. I don't think she would mind me sharing this, and I'm not going to tell you the details of what is said or anything, but I asked her about specifically the Charlie time travel thing, because that's something she gets attacked on quite a bit. I said, what the hell are you talking about? Like, what does that mean? I was sitting in her dining room, and I felt a little invasive asking, but I had to know. Like, curiosity got the best of me. I said, what the hell is this Charlie time travel thing? And she was like, let me show you. And she started showing me text messages. I will say this. She has tremendous restraint that she doesn't just release it all. Because I understand now what she means by it. I understand precisely what she was saying. And anyone who thinks they weren't talking right up to the end, they're out of their mind. I've seen it. I scrolled. I saw, right? Anyone who acts like, oh, they hadn't spoken in years. Wrong. I know they have. And the fact that she holds so much back is a testament, because a lot of people wouldn't. They would want to defend themselves. They'd want to defend their names, and they would get stuff out there right away. So, I find tremendous value in her coverage on this. Does that mean down the road she'll cover every issue and I'll automatically accept whatever she says no matter what? No, but I'll weigh it and I'll give it tremendous credit, and I'll have to evaluate it very seriously. Whereas if Ben Shapiro says something, I'm probably not going to pay that much attention to it because he's so consistently wrong. The same goes for Gary. The same goes for Andrew Colvett. The same goes for all these people. To me, they've lost all credibility because everything they say, they end up either backtracking on and not mentioning that they were wrong, or they just ignore the fact that they were wrong and move on. And I think there's something too when you're challenged, you just sit back and say, okay, we'll just let the chips fall where they may. We'll show you the truth as it comes out.
Well, and then also even worse, and I think this is where, as far as I'm concerned, where I've been very adamant just about this whole entire thing is, like, you see these different attacks, you see these different diagnoses, and those individuals that you mentioned, it seems like they're just so quick to turn around and basically call for the censorship or silencing of any individuals asking questions, and that becomes just a free speech issue. And I told you on your show, I'm a free speech absolutist, right? So when I see a group of individuals trying to silence, censor, diagnose. Like we saw this. I got to get better at using code words that coach taught me. Whatever. We saw it during COVID, right? Like we saw it during COVID when you had those individuals who spoke out against the medical establishment come out. I mean, even the platforms that they went on, Joe Rogan, for example, like he was absolutely destroyed, and they tried to censor him. They tried to diagnose him. They tried to accuse him of medical malpractice for recommending these harmful drugs, the horse dewormer, the whole thing. They tried to put his picture up on CNN and give him a different face color, for Pete's sake. They literally tried to cancel it, right? They tried to cancel him, excuse me. And we are just seeing the same exact thing happen now. But like, I go back and I'm like, thank God for those individuals that had the courage to stand up for the truth. Otherwise, we'd be under medical tyranny now. Me and you would be sitting here. Well, we wouldn't be sitting here at all. We'd be, I don't even know where we'd be. We'd be in a gulag somewhere, but we'd certainly have a mask on. That's for sure. Right? Like you can't, how can these individuals not learn from just very recent history to know that if you are on the side of trying to shut down free speech or the free flow of ideas, that, like, to me, that is a tell that you were on the wrong side of history. And that's been proven time and time again throughout human history.
Yeah. And that's the tell. It's the attacks. That's the tell. People, why am I so supportive of certain people? Why do I make sure I watch everything they put out? Because they're being absolutely destroyed by the mainstream, what I call Con Inc., or the mainstream, I guess, who's adopted MAGA, the Mark Levins, the Ben Shapiros of the world, people who, frankly, have opposed right every time it's been offered. These are the people who, every time there's a right side and a wrong side, they take the wrong side.
Yeah. And I would say not adopted. I would say hijacked for sure.
Yeah. And so I do give a lot of weight to what those people say, the people who were attacked. And I mentioned Alex, you mentioned Joe. There are a dozen more of them. And unfortunately, there's people we have forgotten along the way. People I followed intently from the early days of Twitter, 2007, 8, 9, who have been banned from platforms, but they were banned so early that they weren't able to come back after the platforms reopened a little bit after COVID. So, after COVID, after Trump got reelected in 24, a lot of these platforms loosened up their policies. They let people back on. YouTube sort of took an approach. Facebook took an approach. We're just going to let people say what they say, as long as it's not particularly harassing, or as long as it's not particularly awful. We're going to let them have at it and let the free speech marketplace do its thing. But a lot of those people, and I could name them, I don't want to, because I don't know what YouTube will flag I don't want to hurt your channel that way, but a lot of those people are gone forever. We'll never hear from them again. They will never have a legitimate platform ever again. And I do worry about that taking place again down the road. And I think the attacks on particularly Tucker and Candace, but others, are setting up that push down the road.
Yeah. So you've had your nose in this pretty much from the very beginning. You have sources. I mean, you've mentioned, you and Candace exchange ideas and the different arguments that you guys are taking a look at. What is, as much as you're willing to share, your working theory on what happened to Charlie Kirk and why?
Yeah, the why is a tough one. Because the why basically comes down to only three options. One is the proffered option, which is some radical leftists went after him and took him out. So that's an option. That's option A. I don't believe in it. The other two options come down to opportunism. He was taken out for an opportunity. That could be an internal opportunity. TPUSA people conspired to take him out in order to remove him as an obstacle to their power, wealth, access, whatever it was that his continued existence would prevent. And then the third option could be a combination with the second option, but it's you remove him because there's either a foreign or domestic military purpose or an intelligence purpose. I tend to lean towards the latter two, obviously. And I don't think TPUSA could pull it off on its own. And so I lean towards a combination of 2 and 3, whereas there's a foreign or domestic military or intelligence motive to remove a guy like Charlie Kirk at this particular time. And the TPUSA people would benefit from that. They would get wealthier. They would get more powerful. They would get a better access. They would, whatever it was Charlie was standing in the way of. So that's my why. That's where I lean to. I can't state, I wouldn't put my hand on a Bible and swear that's true. It is kind of a North Star, though, as I evaluate the case. Those are sort of the things that are in my mind. I feel like that's fed by the fact that Erika Kirk is the weirdest human being I've ever seen. I feel like Tyler Boyer and Andrew Colvett could not be doing a worse job if they tried to look guilty, or try to look innocent. They're doing a terrible job trying to look innocent. They're everything they do makes them look guilty. And the people around them seem desperate to try to pin this on Tyler Robinson rather than say, let's just find out who did it. Like they would, no, we have a guy and every piece of evidence has to point to him, or you are out of your mind. You're crazy. You should be banned. You should be ashamed of yourself. You're demonic. You're evil. You're torturing a widow. You're like, it's over the top. Like they can't possibly be as confident that Tyler Robinson solely alone planned and executed Charlie Kirk. They can't possibly be as confident as they stay. The evidence isn't there. So that takes care of the why. The how. The how gets very complicated. So I do it by process of elimination. We know he didn't have a heart attack. We know he didn't have a stroke. There was a loud bang. His neck opened up and he lost a tremendous quantity of blood. There are only so many things that could cause that. One would be a gunshot. And I think that's where most people went, because typically when we hear a loud bang and we see a hole open up in someone's body, that's where our mind goes. We don't go to bomb, because bomb in our mind is like an IED. It blows off legs. It blows off arms. It turns you into a pink mist. It blows cars up. We don't think of bombs as micro bombs or shaped bombs that could do limited damage. So you have to decide between gunshot, bomb, or both. Meaning there was a gunshot and a bomb, there was only a gunshot, or there was only a bomb. It's got to be one of those two. So that's the how. When you talk gunshot, we're only offered one rifle, and that's a 30-06. Now we know what type of ammo that rifle had. It was Remington Springfield 30-06 metal jacket load with a lead core. That round cannot cause the wound we saw open up in the left side of Charlie's neck. It cannot. The angle of the shot that allegedly was taken from the Losi Center cannot produce that wound. It cannot. The activity that took place under his shirt, a Rode microphone taking a hard turn across to his sternum, a necklace shooting up towards his neck, the shirt puffing out in the back, down his arms, none of that is consistent with being shot in the neck. None of it. I find it interesting we have not taken a closer look at the shirt, and we've not been provided the evidence that would show what happened to the shirt. Because if there's a hole in the shirt, he was not shot in the neck, period, end of story. I think if the shirt was examined or the footage was examined, we probably will find a small hole near the collar of Charlie's shirt based on everything that took place under the shirt. That hole would be dispositive to me. That hole would eliminate a gunshot. We would be looking at a localized event under his shirt, under the tent. There are very few angles that appear to show that hole. And you can't tell if it's a shadow, if it's a blood splatter. You can't really tell what it is. But there were 8K cameras feet away from him, positioned right on his face, right on his head, that were shooting in all likelihood very high quality. Those cameras, if they show a hole in the collar of a shirt, that is dispositive. We are no longer looking at a gunshot. So as we talk about the 30-06, as we talk about Tyler Robinson, we now can rule out Tyler Robinson entirely if it's not a 30-06. He is no longer a suspect. If there's a hole in the shirt, we can rule out any firearm whatsoever. Now we've got to figure out what took place under the shirt. Even if we can't find the hole in the shirt's been thrown away, it was cut apart, it was damaged, it was torn open, and we're not able to determine the hole. The video footage, for whatever reason, didn't capture the shirt at just the right angle, at just the right frame, and we can't tell whether there's a hole there or not. We're still left with what happened under the shirt to cause the Rode microphone. And I should have gotten one out. I didn't know we were going to talk about this. I have those Rode microphones. I have the Go 3. He had the Go 1, but they're the same size. They're basically the same thing. I have the exact same metal clip. The clip I use is the clip he had. So I could demonstrate it on this t-shirt. This t-shirt's black. It wouldn't do very well, but you have something caused that Rode microphone to come all the way over to the middle of his body. A gunshot here does not cause your shirt to go this way. We also have his necklace. I have this St. Thomas More medal, but it's a similar length. I think this is a 24-inch chain. He was wearing a 26-inch chain. This thing shoots up into the left side of his neck and lifts his shirt up. That is not consistent with a bullet wound. So the fact that we don't have Tyler Robinson, we don't have an injury consistent with a 30-06, we have a shirt doing at least two things. We haven't even talked about the gas escape yet. But gas apparently escaping out of his back, gas escaping out of his right sleeve. That none of that is consistent with a gunshot. So we eliminate the gunshot, we eliminate the rifle, we eliminate Tyler Robinson. We have to now answer what happened under his shirt. And the sad answer I have to give you is I don't know. I don't know. The two leading theories are the microphone somehow exploded or had a shaped charge in it that ejected into his neck. That's option A. Option B is something with his necklace. There was a big fuss about the necklace in the immediate aftermath. Frank Turk wanted to know where it was. Erika Kirk wanted to know where it was. She dramatically held a version of it, maybe the original necklace, maybe a second one. This is a commercially available necklace anybody can buy and have shipped to their house in under a week. She held something up and wanted us to know that necklace looked all right. And that was weird to me. Mm-hmm. Then we have the most unusual event that is not being talked about enough. The scene of the crime was paved over. The scene of the crime was paved over. There's no explanation for that. I've never heard of that in a murder investigation. Before the body is even in the ground, before the funeral, we're paving over the scene. Why not just tape it off and allow bomb dogs to go around? Why not take, when you get I just got a roof on my house. When you get a roof on your house, they take a magnet and they go in all your flower beds and they make sure any little metal shavings, any nuts and bolts that come loose from the roof, from the tiles, any nails, they all get picked up by this gigantic, very powerful magnet that they roll all over your yard. Why did no one do that before they paved over the scene? Just to see what's down there.
Well, it was only within 3 or 4 days, but it was also done on a Sunday in Utah, which is a big deal.
Yeah, with pavers that were purchased at Lowe's. And I covered this on my show, I have the facilities plan for Utah Valley University from the department that did the work from 2025 and 2026. This work was not on their agenda. It was not scheduled to be done. People at the school, according to one witness, were not aware this was being done. It was just done. The state came in and just did it. So there are real problems with the gunshot narrative. If it's a lone wolf, these are not the things you do. The shirt doesn't act that way. The wound would better resemble getting shot in the neck by a 30-06, and you wouldn't pave over the scene. That's not even talking about the fact that a security team jumped all over him and chucked him into an SUV like a side of beef. The man allegedly had a broken neck. He was bleeding. Why are you doing this? This is so catastrophically wrong that I would love to be the person to give the opening statement in that trial, because it would sound argumentative and it wouldn't be. I would just go through all that evidence. I would have on either side of me pictures of the shirt puffed up. I would have the image from behind that there's no wound coming out the back. We're not even talking about the fact that his necklace went off and whipped around his head and flipped around and all that. Those are not consistent with gunshots. None of that happens with a gunshot. But those things do sound awfully consistent with some sort of charge that exploded under a shirt. So it's my theory. You asked for my theory. My theory is that whatever it was, the necklace or the microphone, was supposed to look like a chest wound. It was supposed to look like a chest wound. He was wearing a white shirt. It would have been very bloody. And a 30-06 would have made perfect sense, because if I get shot in the middle of the sternum with a 30-06, the bullet might not escape out of my back. The sternum is very hard. It might cause the bullet to turn and move. And now you've got an easy case to cover up. But as soon as it went into his neck, the case was over. Tyler Robinson's not, in my opinion, not going to get convicted. Because that neck wound is so inconsistent with a gunshot. And you just cannot explain how a 30-06 doesn't just immediately explode 2 or 3 inches of soft tissue. So here's my fear. They get through the preliminary hearing, and then Tyler Robinson either takes a deal or gets killed. And that ends the case. It's over at that point. It's over, which is why they push so hard to get the death penalty on the table. Because once you have the death penalty on the table, we'll offer you life. You don't have to die. And you've got your appeals and you've got your, you can go forward. You can continue breathing as long as you want.
Yeah, I just spoke with Elizabeth Lane right before we got on together. Did two live shows. I called it a doubleheader.
Yeah, you're the Ernie Banks of podcasting.
But I mean, she's had multiple conversations with Tyler Robinson's family members who believe that he was framed. We had that audio that just came out that Candace Owens found yesterday of Elizabeth talking with Tyler Robinson's grandfather. I want you to put on your lawyer and attorney hat here. I mean, you mentioned a lot of these things that could shed doubt on Tyler Robinson actually having took this shot with that specific rifle. I mean, does that play in the trial? I mean, how does this all play out in trial?
Well, you're going to have to get an expert, and the judge is going to have to let it in under Daubert. And I don't know how the judge will interpret that. Local judges have tremendous gatekeeping power when it comes to expert witnesses. They tend to be pretty liberal with letting experts in, but they do have an important gatekeeping function. You don't want experts coming in saying absolute nonsense, right? And so Rule 702 of the Rules of Evidence and the Supreme Court's opinion in Daubert, and Utah appears to be a Daubert state, they have a sort of a checklist they go through, and they look at, is this relevant in the community? Is this scientifically accepted in the community? That's kind of the standard. I mean, just in one sentence. I don't want to go through the whole analysis, but in one sentence, that's sort of the gatekeeping function the judge serves. He evaluates, he holds a 702 hearing, he holds a Daubert hearing, and he hears from both sides. And the question is this expert going to testify about things that are relevant and accepted in the scientific community or in the medical community? I think if you found a weapons expert with maybe a manufacturer of ammunition, and you brought them in, I think they would survive Daubert. And if you could put them in front of a jury and that person could say, there's not a boxed 30-aught Springfield round in the country that is going to do that damage. It is going to explode out the back of the neck. It might decapitate him. It might cause the other half of his neck to explode. Like, that's just not going to happen. Period. End of story. I have no idea why we're even talking about this. I manufacture these rounds. I hand load these rounds. I go to the test range all the time and we shoot these rounds. We shoot animals. We shoot bone. We shoot, concrete. We shoot steel. There's no way in the world that neck contained that round. They go in and they talk scientifically about the speed of the bullet. It's traveling so many feet per second. It arrives with so many foot-pounds of force. The neck can only withstand so many foot-pounds of force before it gives. I mean, they could attack it on a scientific basis. Mm-hmm. And I think it would be very compelling and very successful testimony. Unfortunately, experts are just prostitutes. If you pay them, they'll say anything you want. I mean, that's kind of the way you always say the other side. That's the attack on the other expert is, well, he got compensated for this. Of course he's going to say that. Well, both experts got compensated in all likelihood. And so the state then puts up an expert and says, oh, no. We've looked at many 30-06 rounds, and they often are contained in the body. And then the jury has to weigh which expert do they believe. I think it becomes a battle of experts. And I think the expert the defense chooses is critical. Now, if the defense concedes a 30-06 shot, Tyler's toast. That's my opinion. If the defense concedes it was a 30-06 round, he is absolutely toast because he was there. His rifle was there. His fingerprints were there. His DNA was there. There's 30-06 fragments that allegedly were recovered from the body. I mean, you've basically taken all framing out of the equation. You've taken it all out. And you've basically forfeited your right to argue anything took place under the shirt. You've forfeited your right to argue anything under the shirt looked unusual. You forfeited the right to put up the pictures of the gas escaping the back of his shirt, the gas escaping the arm of his shirt. All that's out the window if you concede to a 30-06 round being the cause of death. I hope they don't, because if anything, because I don't believe that's what happened.
Do you think that they're already conceding that it was a gunshot at all by referring to it as a bullet or as a gunshot? like as they're doing based on the ATF report and all that, like before they have the data. I know this hearing that took place last week, they were asking about all of the data from these authorities that did their analysis. Do you think it's a mistake for them to be referring to whatever this piece of metal is or this projectile is that they allegedly recovered from? Was it even from Charlie's body? I'm not 100% sure.
Well, we don't know. We don't have an autopsy report, so we can't know. You've raised an interesting question, and it kind of goes to the legal procedure. We're at the very early stage. We're not even to the preliminary hearing stage. So obviously nothing the lawyers say at this point they can be held to. They're free to present any defense they want in defense of their client. They have to do it zealously under the rules of ethics. They have to examine every possibility under the rules of ethics, determine which ones weigh most in favorable of the client, and then they have a duty to represent them accordingly. So, you know, if for right now they're just trying to survive the preliminary stage by bringing this up the way they are, I think it's a mistake, but I don't think that limits their options at trial, if that's what you're asking.
You think it's a mistake by the defense team to bring that up?
I think it's a mistake by the defense team to concede cause of death.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's an element of the crime. Right. So the prosecution has a very high burden, reasonable doubt. The Supreme Court has defined it as almost absolutely certain. They've used many different ways. That's the one I always use in my closing. Almost absolutely certain, meaning if you're like, yeah, he probably did it, not guilty. If you're like, I think it's pretty likely he did it, not guilty. I think it's probably certain he did it, not guilty. Almost absolutely certain. Almost absolutely certain. Any reasonable doubt that's in your mind, if you have any doubt on any single element that's in your mind and you think, well, I'm just not sure on that one element, not guilty. That's it. You go into that jury room and you say not guilty. I'm doing a closing that I've done many times. But that's how you talk to a jury. You give them all the options and you say, that's the only one you're allowed to choose. That there at the top is the only. I had a poster board I would pick up there with me that looked like a thermometer, and I would color it in as I went up. You have to get all the way up there. You have to be almost absolutely certain. And if you concede one of the key elements, how he died, I mean, they're going to say he died by gunshot because the prosecution has to state how he died. That's part of their burden. And if you concede that element, I think it's a huge disservice to your client unless there's no debate, right? If he walks up and stabs a guy in the neck in front of 3,000 people, you're probably not going to say, well, did he really get stabbed or could he have been shot? I mean, that'd be foolish. But in a situation like this where people just heard a bang and saw a wound and the wound is pretty inconsistent with what we think of as a 30-06, that is reasonable doubt. If you get one juror on there who says, I don't think that's a 30-06 wound, we're going home, boys. He's not going to prison today. Like, pack it up. They might have to retry the case if they hang the jury. But again, you're fighting. Your first goal as a defense attorney, you're fighting for the one. You key in on the one. You try to win one over, whoever that is. And you try to win him over just enough to hang the jury. And now can I get him in there and convince everyone else? And I want to win on that issue. That's the issue. I'm going to find somebody on that jury who doesn't believe a 30-06 will cause that damage. And I'm going to hammer that point. And I want to create reasonable doubt on that point. And then I want to chip away at the rest of the case and see if I can send him home.
Well, I think there's certainly reasonable doubt given everything that you described, from the wound type to where they say the bullet went up to the vertebrae that it hit, to the behavior of his shirt, to the way that the necklace whipped around his neck, traveling in the direction of where the shot came from. I believe that there's the reasonable doubt of a gunshot, especially one from a 30-06, is certainly there, it seems. One of the things that I inserted my nose into, I think it was last week, was I wanted to learn more about the explosion. I wanted to learn more about the exploding mic or whether or not the necklace was involved. So sat down and had a conversation on a panel on the Black Line Brief, a smaller YouTube channel, which I've shouted out before, with John Bray and Blake Bednarz. I know you've had Blake on your show. I don't know if Blake is continuing his coverage of the Charlie Kirk investigation or not. given recent developments. But ultimately, what those two have differing perspectives, but I want your perspective on this. So Blake believes that it was a special technology in the necklace, which I know that you're open-minded to. But what I find most interesting is that Blake's argument is that the gunshot sound that we heard came from the audio, versus John, who believes that the microphone, the Rode mic, was responsible for the explosion, and he's actually even like gotten video of what he believes is the circuit board coming up out of Charlie's shirt, which is very interesting, and he's been able to identify that based on the colors and his audio analysis, though. And I haven't seen anybody else do audio analysis in this, so I don't know how to necessarily vet John's argument, but he seems like he's gone into a lot of detail with regard to this and analyzing the mock cones and other words that I myself can't even pronounce.
Mm-hmm.
But he believes that it was an actual gunshot. He believes that a gunshot was fired. It did come over the crowd, and he believes that it went into a ballistic gel in the car behind Charlie Kirk. Those are interesting arguments, I guess you can say. What do you think? What are your thoughts? What's your take on those two different arguments?
So I tried to follow the audio analysis early on. I read John's briefing on the audio analysis recently. I watched his videos. I went to the website he recommended. I don't see what he sees in that, but that doesn't mean he's wrong. He may be smarter than I am in that, and he may be seeing things that I don't see. I wish he would explain it better, because where his lines are on the audio analysis, I'm not seeing corresponding peaks that he is spotting. So he has a line and it says, "There's your mock cone." And I'm looking at like it was the same size. I mean, the audio disturbances look about the same as all the other ones. So why is that the mock cone? Why not this one? Why not that one? And what he means by mock cone is the bullet flies faster than the speed of sound. And when it does, it sends a supersonic boom out in a conical shape behind it. And so the bullet will arrive at the target before the sound of the gunshot will arrive at the target. But before that, you're going to hear a crack. So you get this crack boom. I've heard it described as crack boom analysis, crack thump analysis. If you have a microphone, it'll pick up the crack. That's the sonic cone that's surrounding and trailing the projectile. And you have the boom, which is the primer powder explosion traveling behind it, because it has a speed limit. It can only travel so fast. It can't go faster than the speed of sound. So that's the cone and the boom analysis that he's hearing, but I'm not seeing that in the data that he's pointing to. I'm not disputing it. I'm not seeing it. I don't understand it. The louder boom that he's hearing from under the shirt, I believe that boom exists. I don't know enough about the crack boom, whether it came from the audio, whether it came over the PA, whether it came from the Losi Center. I can't say. I stop myself and say, he didn't get shot in the neck with a 30-06. So that ends my analysis of whether he was killed by a gun. Whether there was a gun fired is basically irrelevant to me at that point, because it's not the cause of death. I don't care what else is going on around me. Someone may have farted at the same time. I don't. It's not relevant to the discussion of who killed Charlie Kirk, how, and why. I do find it interesting that someone would fire a gun into a vehicle over the heads of innocent people that they're not targeting with death. That seems like a long shot to me, but I've not sat on the top of the Losi Center and looked down where that car was parked to see what that line of sight really looked like. I do intend to go to UVU, and I will stand where the car was. I won't be able to get on the Losi Center, but I will stand where the car was, and I'll look up from that angle, and I'll get down about the height of the cargo container of that van, and I'll look up and see what that might have looked like. But that seems like a very risky proposition. You've introduced an element of complexity to an already complex environment. Not only from timing perspective, but from just the logistics itself, just the mechanics of getting a gunshot into the back of a van on a perfect line. So I'm hesitant to buy that particular part of the argument. I think he's done yeoman's work when it comes to the exploding microphone. I think there's a lot of weight to that argument, But I do also think there's a lot of weight to the necklace argument. Something caused that necklace to propel the way it did. It might be the charge or whatever it was. Maybe it was a double charge thing where one charge shot the microphone this way and the other charge shot it that way. But why not just shoot the charge this way and not have to worry about moving the mic in the middle? So I don't know. Again, I don't think it was intended to go up. I think it was intended to go in, and it didn't. It went up instead. Whether that was the necklace or the microphone. I think it was intended to look like a chest shot. And I don't know that we would be sitting here talking about it if they'd have pulled it off.
It's interesting that you say that, because when I remember where I was standing when I got the news that Charlie was shot. My father-in-law texted me, and it was one word, and it said Charlie Kirk. And I guess that's two words. If a first and last name.
I wasn't going to call you on it.
It's two words. Said Charlie Kirk. And I was like, what the heck is going on? So then I just typed real quick into my phone, Charlie Kirk, and then saw the news that he was shot. And then there was video out that came out pretty quickly on some form of social media. I think it might have been X. And the first view that I saw of it was from far back. And it literally looked like he got shot in the chest.
Yeah.
It looked like he got shot in the chest. And like my first impression was like, oh my gosh, like someone's shot him in the chest. Maybe someone was right in front of him, whatever. I mean, it wasn't until a little bit later when more videos started to come out. And that's when I first saw, I mean, this is the video that I'll never forget, was the video from him up close. And then you saw the wound come out from the side, and you saw the blood pouring to the ground. But it looked to me initially like a chest shot. And I 100% agree with you in that whatever happened was supposed to mimic that chest shot. And you're 100% right in that if nothing had emerged from the test, from his shirt area, that it hit the neck and caused that wound that we all saw, because that initial wound is what caused everybody to doubt that was an entry wound from a 30-06 rifle.
Yeah. Even
Gary Melton was exploring body armor because he didn't believe that was an entry wound from a 30-06, right? That's where you had all of the theories coming that it was a shot from behind and that was an exit wound. I mean, again, that initial wound was, the doubt of the wound was one of the initial arguments that many people had, right? But if he had been shot in the chest and that wound didn't occur, and I want to say that's also consistent with what John Bray is saying, is that whatever it was, whatever the projectile came up that hit him in the neck, that was a mistake. It wasn't nothing was supposed to emerge from outside of his shirt. And I think you're right. Like, we wouldn't even be here talking. It would be, I think you had said, like, Tyler Robinson, he would have died in a shootout, and, me and you wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's, I guess we'll just continue to monitor and see how things play out. Do you think that realistically that this stuff is going to be talked about once the trial hits? Elizabeth Lane seems to doubt that this is even going to get to trial. She thinks that he's going to take a plea deal. What are your thoughts on that?
I think a plea, I don't know his true level of involvement. So, look, we got to take it from no involvement. He was just in the area. He had no idea why he was in the area. He was supposed to meet somebody at Dairy Queen. He was supposed to meet somebody at the car wash. He was, supposed to meet somebody on campus, walk around, see the setup. I don't know. I don't know why he was there, but if he was there for completely innocent reasons, we may not see a plea, because he may not be willing to go to prison for the rest of his life if he had no involvement whatsoever. If he was there because he thought he was part of a criminal conspiracy to kill Charlie Kirk, he might very well be willing to take life in prison, because that's what he's probably going to get anyway. And it might keep him alive if he takes the plea, because he doesn't uncover a larger conspiracy and then get taken out. It's morbid. I hate even talking like this, but
yeah, I know. Do you think he's going to get the death penalty? If you could guess.
No.
You don't think so?
No, I don't. I don't think so. I don't have a particular reason for saying that. I did hear the defense expert say only 64% of the people he surveyed thought Tyler Robinson was guilty, and only 35% thought he should get the death penalty.
Wow.
That's pretty low. And right now the defense has shown nothing. They've just absorbed all the blows. So that's, we in this environment like to believe that there are, millions of people all over Utah following on every word of the microphone theory and the necklace theory and the 30-06 theory. And the reality is, most people are just taking their kids to soccer and they go into doctor's appointments and they go to work and they go home and they turn on the evening news and they say, oh, there was an update in the Tyler Robinson hearing. Oh, okay. The bullet matched. Okay, good. And they go to bed, So the fact that 36% of people are unwilling to tell a survey that they think Tyler Robinson did it is absolutely unbelievably low at this point in the stage.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the defense has not put on a single witness. And they've got to be panicked. They've got to be panicked. And I think that 36% probably comes from people who say that's not a 30-06.
Mm-hmm.
That there's no way that's a 30-06. Those are hunters. That 36% that's unwilling to say he's guilty, those are hunters.
Well, and that's what we know his own grandfather thinks. So,
yeah.
All right. I really want to ask you two more questions, and then we got to get to some of these comments here. One of the things, I had one clip that I wanted to share with you today, and one of the items that has gotten Candace Owens a lot of heat is the Egyptian planes. And you are one of these, and I say this in the most endearing term, in the most endearing way possible. You are one of those psychos, the people that stay up all night monitoring these flights around the country. I think I remember, I think you saying at some point in one of your shows that you and Ian Carroll will text each other like in the middle of the night and be like, hey, are you seeing this right now? Right. So
yeah, I remember one day in particular, the U.S. put up 4 Poseidons at the exact same time.
I think it might have been that. And you texted Ian and you were just like, hey, are you seeing this right now?
I was like, dude, what is going on? Are we under attack? Like, that's a lot of surveillance right there. What do they know that we don't know? Should we be taking cover?
So that just goes back to, to the whole Lionel quote. Like, we've got people out here tracking planes. We got people out here measuring shadows. We got people out here measuring mock cones. Like, you have no idea what you've done.
Yeah.
But I want to show this clip of Erika Kirk, and this is from her interview with Barry Weiss on CBS. And this is one that it came up, and going back and revisiting, it's not one that I have seen, but this is when she was asked about the Egyptian planes. And I want to show this, and I want to get your take on her response here.
How mainstream they become. Okay.
Hold on.
Egyptian planes. That's how mainstream they become. Okay. Egyptian planes. You want to talk about Egyptian planes?
Okay. I was pregnant for 90% of those trips. Mind you, I've never, all those places they said I've traveled, I've never been. I mean, I've been, but I'm not within those states that they've.
But you even said you need to address.
No, but this is, yeah, but I do on that one, only because from a humor standpoint, I intentionally, when I was pregnant, hid. Not because I was embarrassed, not because I didn't want anyone. Yes, we did keep it very private, but it's because it was a moment very sacred. I was growing a human inside of me, my baby. The world that Charlie and I live in is very toxic at times.
Yeah.
And when you are growing a beautiful child in you, I don't want to be around it. I want to enjoy eating my In-N-Out burger and my hot fudge sundae. That's what I want to do. I'm pregnant, and I have 9 months to own it. You really think I'm going to be on an Egyptian plane while I am wanting to be with my In-N-Out burger and my chocolate milkshake? No, I'm not. So if you want to go through my flight log, go right ahead. It's very boring. You say I was here on this date. I have a photo on my phone to prove that I actually was in the hospital because I was having contractions. So game on.
What's your take on that?
Oh my gosh. Several things. One is women are at an unfair disadvantage, excuse me, when they do public speaking. And I hate this for them. Men can get angry and not be looked at like a lunatic. Women, as they get angry, people start to get judgmental. And she looked angry and out of control right there. And I think it's unfair. It's not right. I've advised women running for office. I've advised men running for office. When you're prepping them for talking to people with the women, you just got to say, hey, you know, people don't vote for women because they want them to be kind of flying off the handle. You got to dial it back a little bit. And again, that's just an unfair advantage that women have. But she looks psychotic. I mean, honestly, she looks unwell in that clip. I felt really bad for Barry Weiss during that entire town hall because Barry Weiss could see it unfolding in real time. And I'm sure she saw the ratings plummeting and was trying everything she could to keep it under control. You notice at one point, she's like, do we even need to address this? Like, I see the disposition in your face. We don't need to talk about this. This is not good for you. This is not good for CBS. Let's move on. So that's number one. Number two, no one has ever accused her of being on an Egyptian plane, ever. Never. I've never accused her. I don't know anyone else has ever accused her. And so that's either a form of gaslighting, which is a very deeply dangerous psychological condition, or it's some sort of a modified limited hangout where you give a little bit of truth and you couch it in along with facts that are untrue or just outright lies or even key omissions. So you heard her say at one point, well, I was near those cities. Okay, were you there or not? Because if you were there, the allegation is they were there near you. So you've just confirmed the allegation. But then you cover that limited hangout. You drop that little piece of truth, but then you cover it with a lie. I was never on an Egyptian plane. Well, no one ever accused you of being on an Egyptian plane, ever. I've never heard anyone. The third thing she said is her flight logs are boring. I can assure you they're not. I can assure you they're not. No one at TPUSA's flight logs are boring. That was before we found out that a TPUSA plane had been at Fort Huachuca in October, before it went to Kalispell, Montana, which is a key city that keeps coming up as we research this thing. So, you know, Candace did not mention Fort Huachuca until December. So anybody from TPUSA who thinks they should be staying away from Fort Huachuca to keep appearances low would not yet know by October when the plane went there that was probably not a stop they should have made. And so it's a, you know, there's a lot going on in that conversation. Like, I still want to know what she was doing in Long Beach in the middle of July. Who was she talking to? You know, we have the records that she was on the plane with her security guard and two other TPUSA employees. Why were you guys there? You know, what were you doing? Because that is a weird trip for me. But you know, but for looking at the flight records, we would have never known that it's in all likelihood she was in Athens on the ground at a protected airport where the Vice President of the United States was getting ready to land. No one at that airport was in danger in that moment. No one. Then she was scheduled to go to this civic center in Athens where the vice president was going to be. There's no safer place on earth to be in that moment than inside that building. So, you know, trying to play this off as if, oh, anyone looking at my flight records, they're so boring. Not at all. Al contrario, senora. Those are very interesting flight records. The final thing was that she tries to play on the emotions of women. They got to be telling her that she's dying with women. Women are so much harder on her than men. Men find her conventionally attractive and they want to believe her because that's the way men are. They see an attractive woman, they want to, you know, make amends for whatever reason.
Women, we feel for her that her husband was killed. Like we actually feel the widow. I mean, we feel that aspect of it for sure.
Women have no mercy, particularly women who have lost a husband. They have no mercy on her. And so what she tried to do was there at the end, I'm growing a baby. It's a beautiful thing. It's sacred. It's and then she appeals to, you know, tries to find compassion by saying, oh, you remember when you had pregnancy cravings? Oh, I had In-N-Out cravings. I just wanted an In-N-Out burger and a chocolate milkshake. That's all I wanted. See, I'm just like you guys. I think it was a very manipulative exchange. It was psychologically calculating, and her face could not disguise it.
Well, especially because we know that also too that she was given the questions beforehand. Like she knew it was coming, and that was one of her planned answers. What's also pretty funny, it's like I have a photo, and we're talking about like at least 67, that might not be the exact number, instances of where these different planes or flights took place, right? So she has a photo to debunk all of it. But
Well,
yeah,
and the flights are interesting for a whole other reason. Zach, if you want to travel with your family, you want to go to Disneyland, right? You're going to take the family, you're going to fly across the country to Los Angeles. You're going to land, you're going to spend a couple of 3 nights there. You're going to buy some park tickets. But the flight itself, you got a family of what, 6, 7, 8 people, whatever. You got a big family.
7.
Yeah, 7. You got to buy 7 plane tickets. And those round trip tickets may be $800 or $1,000 each. That's a $7,000 round trip. That's expensive. I mean, that's people have to really plan around that. You have to save up for that. You have to think about that. You have to think, is this going to cause us to miss a mortgage payment? Are we going to miss a car payment? And, we're going to be able to go to Publix after this. She flies on a Gulfstream 5 across the country on a regular basis. If you want to charter one of those from Scottsdale to Nashville, it's going to cost you $75,000 each way. That's what she took for her and one other person to meet with Candace Owens. $150,000 round trip flight.
Wow.
So the more you can shame people into not talking about her flights, the more you can try to scare people by saying, oh, you're putting her in jeopardy. Don't mention her flights. This inures to her benefit because the flights are a real Achilles heel for that organization. They're spending millions and millions of dollars a year to cart her around. And it is, to the average American who doesn't make $75,000 in a year, keep that in mind. The average American does not make $75,000 in a year. The idea that she flew $75,000 each way for a 3-hour meeting with Candace Owens at a hotel room is disgusting. If you've ever made $75,000 or less, and you know that you had to work 2,000 hours that year, you got a 2-week paid vacation, you had to pay your health insurance out of that, you had to pay your mortgage out of that, you had to buy a car out of that, you had to take your kids to the doctor out of that, you had to, buy groceries out of that, you had to, the junior needs new shoes. Oh my gosh, those are $80. I got to pay that out of that $75,000. She burned it on a single trip to Nashville, and she still had to get home that afternoon. It's a huge weakness of hers. It puts her out of touch with the average person. There are so many cheaper ways to get to Nashville than a Gulfstream 5. So many cheaper ways. And they may be getting a discount, a group discount, a bulk discount because of how many flights they fly. That's actually worse. That means they know they're going to soak you for millions, $5, $10 million in travel this year. And so they're willing to do it for 40 each way instead of 75.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guess what? The average American makes 44. So you just took an entire salary from a school teacher who had to put up with snot-nosed 3rd grade brats all year, and you burn it traveling to Nashville to have a meeting with Candace Owens so she would stop investigating you for potentially being involved with your husband's death. I mean, it's absolutely insane the amount of money they spend on travel. So I have no doubt that she's trying to scare people away from talking about her flight records, because just the flight records Daisy and I have captured since Charlie died is 7 figures. I mean, many 7 figures. And that's just where we know she's been. She may have been other places that we don't know. That's just what, and again, I say allegedly. That's why I have it over my head now. Allegedly, in my opinion, I can't state it with certainty, but just what we've been able to capture, that we are pretty confident she was on those flights. You're talking big money. I too, if I was her, would want people to stop talking about my flights and try to convince them they weren't interesting or they were dangerous for doing so.
Yeah. And then she has the gall to gaslight us all that she's that she has to go to work. She has to take over this role because she is a single parent and she has to provide for her children now. It's like, okay.
I think she's probably conservatively worth $50 million. If I had to guess, it's probably more than that. In no circumstances are they worth less than $25 million.
Mm-hmm.
I just cannot imagine a scenario in which she currently sitting here is worth less than $25 million. If she put that in a bank paying 3% interest, she'd be living on $1 million a year in interest. Most people could get by.
Yeah.
She could buy an annuity at 6% and get by on $2 million a year, right? And most people would live a happy life and they would not be putting themselves in jeopardy and danger. There's a reason she has to be out front. And that reason, I think, is why Charlie's dead.
Well, I want to ask you one more thing, and then we'll get to. Do you have time to get to some of the comments here?
Yeah, I've got probably 47 more minutes, and then I've got to take the boys to baseball.
Same. Okay, cool. I have to do the same. I got to get the boys to baseball.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you something more on a personal level. You have your nose in media and in research. You've been an attorney, and this exposes you to just a lot of the evil, I guess you can say, in the world. That's my question to you is does that ever get to you? Does that increase your anxiety levels? Does it cause you anxiety? Like, how do you deal with the constant exposure to these things on a daily basis? Like, I'm not going to lie, but there are some times where, I'll read, the most terrible news. And I feel like you do that multiple times a week, given, what we have our noses in and the different stories on a weekly basis. And I'm just like, how much longer am I going to submit myself to this every single day?
Yeah.
What do you do to kind of keep yourself sane and grounded and in a positive mindset?
So I don't know if I've shared this story with you. I've shared it with my audience. I don't know if it was a member show or a normal show. So I don't know how many people have heard me say this, but I used to have pretty severe anxiety about public events, news, my life, my job, because when I've got 8 kids, right? And they're varying ages, 19 all the way down to 5. And so, you always worry, am I going to be able to protect these people, take care of them? Am I going to be able to provide a roof over the head, feed them, clothe them, educate them, and all that kind of stuff? My wife stays at home with them. She's a doula, so she does have a little side gig, but that's a passion project for her. She loves it. It's something she just absolutely adores. But we couldn't live on doula income. And so, I used to have this tremendous anxiety. This is before I was podcasting full time. So this is when I was a W-2 employee, banging out 40 hours a week, or really 50 or 60 hours a week at a healthcare data analytics company.
Do you mind sharing like kind of how old you were during that time frame?
This was just a couple years ago.
Okay. So fairly recently.
Yeah. So I'm in mass one day. I get there 10, 15 minutes early. If you're not Catholic, you probably drink coffee, eat donuts, mill around, talk to people. If you're Catholic, you go in, you pull the pew down, the kneeler down, you pray. It's a very quiet experience. Totally different. Like when Baptists show up to visit with me, they're like, what's going on in here? Why is everybody so quiet? Why are we not talking? But I'm sitting there. There's 10 or 15 minutes left. And I pull the kneeler down and I start praying, and I just think, man, I'm cooked. Like, I'm tired, I'm stressed, I'm anxious. And Zach, I'm not a mystic. I wish I was. I'm not a mystic. I like reading mystics. I like reading Carmelites. I like reading these people, but I am not one. I had a mystical moment, a mystical experience. I don't know where I was taken mentally, but I was taken somewhere in that moment. And all of a sudden, I was vaguely aware I was still in the church. I was still on the kneeler. I could feel the pew on my elbows where I was leaning on the pew in front of me, but I was completely taken to a different realm. And I come not face to face with a being. I don't want to say it that way, but I come face to face with truth, which is, and it was a humbling truth, that this realm sits above yours. And it's going to be here for eternity. 100 years, 1,000 years, 1,000,000 years. You, sir, cannot name all of your great-grandparents. You certainly probably can't name a single one of your 8th great-grandparents. Your life doesn't mean anything on a day-to-day basis. The news doesn't mean anything. This is all going to go away one day. It's not going to be there. The only thing that matters is whether you're here when it's all said and done. Get your kids here, get your wife here, get yourself here. Don't worry about anything else. And I remember kind of in a way, sort of like in my mind pushing back, like, oh my gosh, what if I lose my house and I get fired and the economy tanks and I can't feed my kids? And I just remember this like warmth, like it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. None of that matters. If you are homeless and you can't afford food and you die of starvation on the side of the road, but you end up here in this place, that's all that matters. And while I'm sitting here enjoying this, seeking out the finer truths of eternity in the universe, all of a sudden, boom, I'm zapped back into the front pew and I look around. And I mean, I went like this. I was like, did anyone just see what happened? I was totally transformed in that moment. I didn't mention anything to anybody for several days. I had to marinate on it. I had to think about it. I had to think, was I like hallucinating? Did I eat something funny, the night before and it just sat on me weird? But I finally, after 4 or 5 days, mentioned it to my wife and I said, I want to tell you something that happened to me Sunday. And I explained it to her. And I think my testimony of that moment helped her the same. All of a sudden, I don't have anxiety anymore. Like, I don't know that I've had anxiety since that moment. And it's been, like I said, well over a year, maybe a couple of years. I don't think I've had any anxiety. I've had time pressures where, something's due and you got to get it in, your taxes, like I felt it last week, your taxes are due and your accountant keeps calling saying, hey, are you going to send me documents or not? I got to get this thing filed. Do you have money in your checking account to pay your taxes or not? Like, I have that kind of time pressure, but I never felt any anxiety really in my life since that moment. I get tired, I get cranky, I get hungry, I get cranky, but I don't get anxious anymore. And so looking at the news, I now evaluate the news in a much more human perspective. I look at war. I was always anti-war, but I look at war now totally differently. No longer is it about, well, what's best for the United States, and should we offset China's hegemony in Southeast Asia, and what's going to take place in the Middle East? There are a lot of, there's a lot of oil over there. I think, what does that matter? There are human beings there. That's what matters. There were 150 girls that woke up one day to go to school, and their parents sent them away, and they died. They were bombed that day. That is far more important and impactful to me now. Same thing with Tyler Robinson. Like, if this guy was involved in something, he should be convicted. If he wasn't, he should be acquitted. Why? Because he's a human being and he shouldn't spend the rest of his life locked up for something he didn't do. Charlie Kirk was killed. Who did it? That person should be held accountable. That person should pay a temporal penalty at least. And I just look at everything completely differently now than I did. So I don't get bogged down by the anxiety. Like, oh, are we going to get wiped out by World War III? Are you going to heaven or not? Like, where are you headed? Because if the answer to that question is yes, then why do you really care? Okay, so your Nashville gets vaporized tomorrow and my whole family goes up with it. Where are we headed? That's what matters. And that's kind of how, I mean, honestly, I know it's a weird answer to your question, but I don't worry about the day-to-day. I don't worry about the news. I used to open the news with tremendous anxiety. I used to open finance.yahoo.com every morning and think, we lost money yesterday, or, don't care. Doesn't matter. I was reading something today where they're like, in 2030, they're going to do away with all our money and everybody's going to be doled out digital currency. I'm like, are we going to heaven or not? Like, I can't take this with me anyway. I mean, would it be nice to have a new car in a couple of years? Was it, sure, maybe, but who ultimately cares what I roll around in on my little temporal time on this mortal plane? Mm-hmm. It's irrelevant. It's totally irrelevant. And so I hope that answers your question.
No, I love that. And then there's the idea of just remaining in the state of grace, which, for us as Catholics, it's like if you die in the state of grace, you're going to go to heaven, right? So it's almost like if you're practicing the sacraments, you're getting to confession, you're receiving the Eucharist, you're going to mass on a weekly basis, and you're in the state of grace. It doesn't really matter what goes on in the world, right? Yeah. Like it's a powerful defense, and I like that answer a lot. Thank you for sharing. Well,
and I'll add one thing to it. I feel like there's something that we've not announced publicly, at least not on the show, but there was a challenge in my family in the last several months. What could have been a challenge. It's actually turned out to be quite a blessing. But there was something that could have been a tremendous challenge, and I think had I not had that experience, my approach would have been totally different. But in that moment, when I got the news and you know, I looked at it, I thought, great, who cares? Like, it doesn't matter. This is things that would have been challenges before are now blessings. Hey, one more experience here on the road to glory, right? There's one more thing we can chalk up in our life's experiences. So it's and I will be announcing it soon. It's not something that and my wife is not pregnant. That's not what it is. But it's something that before would have really been a challenge to me personally, but it wasn't. It was not at all. And in a way, I'm thankful, because I think had I not had that experience, it would have been kind of something that sort of upended my life.
Well, thank you for that. That answer was great, and that's a great reminder for me. I mean, to be honest with you, I was kind of asking for, like I said, on a personal note, but for your advice there, and I think that's a perspective that I need to keep as well. So, thank you for sharing that.
I don't want you to be homeless, but if you ever are, you'll be fine.
That's right. We'll be homeless together and on the path to heaven. Then we're fine, right?
And you could come stay in our bonus room. You can bring your whole family. We'll throw down some cots. We'll be good. But you won't have access to the ocean.
But I'll be landlocked, though. I don't know.
You may rather be homeless in a state that has access to the ocean.
All right. Before we get to comments, I did ask you to come prepared for one thing.
Yeah, I was looking for my reading glasses so I could get to it. But
that was to share, as I normally do on my live show, your go-to or favorite Bible or scripture passage with all of us today.
Yeah, and so I got one from the Revised Standard Version. I hope you're not offended. I know you're a NABRE.
I'm a NABRA guy, but I'll allow it. I'll allow it.
This is from the Ignatius Catholic Study Bible I got at a secondhand bookstore. It had never been opened, and I got it for $20.
Wow.
Yeah. So this is from Romans 3, 1 through 24. It appeals to the lawyer in me, sir. You want to read along with me? I'll wait till you get there.
You got Romans
phone?
No. I got the NABRA right here.
Okay. You're going to have to read paper. We don't read scripture on.
You got to read paper. Absolutely. You read scripture off paper, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen. Thin paper, preferably.
Yes.
All right. Are you with me?
I'm with you.
All right. Romans 3:21. But now the righteousness of God has been manifested apart from law, although the law and the prophets bear witness to it, the righteousness of God through faith in Jesus Christ for all who believe. For there's no distinction, since all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. They're justified by his grace as a gift through the redemption which is in Christ Jesus, whom God put forth as an expiation by his blood to be received by faith. This was to show God's righteousness, because in his divine forbearance he had passed over former sins. It was to prove at the present time that he himself is righteous and that he justifies him who has faith in Jesus. That is my favorite passage in all of Scripture.
Why is that?
Because God has to save face. But for the reality that he had previously passed over people's sins and did not require a blood sacrifice, Jesus' sacrifice is meaningless. But what he said is to maintain faith, to maintain his position as a righteous God in the heavens for all those around him, for all the angels, for the fallen angels, for the demons. In order to save face and to be righteous, he had to require the blood sacrifice. So he did. But he gives us easy access to it through faith in Christ.
Through faith. Yep. I love that. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. It appeals to the lawyer in me, because I think, hey, that's just, right?
Yep.
You commit a crime, you got to pay a price.
Yeah, I love that last line there. Through the forbearance of God to prove his righteousness in the present time, that he might be righteous and justify the one who has faith in Jesus. I think a part of the saving mission that Jesus, God himself, entered into the world. I talked about this yesterday, to prove righteousness, to prove that God's will could be done, to prove that God's will could overcome the human will, right?
Yeah.
that had not been done prior to Christ coming into the world. Up until that point, it was constant failure on the part of humanity to live according to the law. But when Jesus came, he proved that actually God's will could be done, showing us a better way that everybody has access to, not just a specific or chosen group of people. So yeah, very, very good. I mean, I love that. All right, let's get to some comments here. We got just a few member shout outs. We got Heather, Laura, not Loomer. Got to make that distinction here nowadays for sure. And then Jed, thank you guys for becoming a member here. Really appreciate you guys. Then we've got Scooch, friend of the show for sure. Hey, Baron, thanks for making Zach be on time.
Hey, promptness is a respect for your audience, sir.
You see, guys, and now I'm getting a lecture from Baron, so I appreciate that as well.
Hey, you guys are not alone. Sometimes I'm sitting there going, Zach, where are you?
I've gotten better. I'm trying my best. My best.
I know.
I'll tell you this: since I've gotten mods added to my channel, and shout out to all 5 of the mods that I have here, there is some accountability built in there because I give them a time, and I gotta deliver on that time. So I appreciate that. We got Kristen here, men of God, nothing better. Baron, you are killing it.
Thank you.
Baron, denying his Southern accent, this is the one that I saw last week, is equal to Zach denying his gingerness. Zach, we need a poll. I don't know how to do a poll. But there you go. You're denying your Southern accent last week is equal to Zach denying his gingerness. So I guess we can say we're equally delusional in that regard.
Yeah, I'll allow it.
I think you've got a good voice. I think it's slight, but I actually think it adds to your I don't know, it adds to your brand, it adds to the appeal.
Oh, thank you.
I think you've got a good voice you've got a great voice for radio and broadcasting.
Thank you. I appreciate that. No, but a face for radio.
That's what I've been told. I have a face for radio. So always enjoy your show and always learn something here. Thank you for that. Appreciate you, and thanks for the support. My 2 favorite gingers. What up, my Z? Let's go, B. This reminds me of your I'm a B. I'm a B.
You'll be late, my B.
This is going to be some high IQ chatting. We'll forever be grateful for this lovely club of normal, sane, kind people. Thanks for all you both do to keep us informed. Christ is King indeed. Yeah, amen to that. Like I've said many times, it's much bigger than just the mouthpieces or those that do the investigating. This is a whole big decentralized open source movement that's going on right now, and there's so many people involved in this, right? There's so many people that help throughout both of our communities that contribute to all of this.
Yeah.
Surprising how little the truth costs in comparison to the millions spent on the mainstream media. I would love to think that the U.S. can survive this administration, but I have my doubts when the corruption runs so deep. New shirts with misinformation, Mr. T. Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, I think that a lot of us are worried about how much can be saved and what's going to survive. And I mean, I've said to you guys many times, like, I mean, one of my main reasons that I supported this Trump administration was because I really believed that this was the group that was going to be able to go in and get the American government working back on behalf of the American people. And we've been let down in that regard. And that scares me. It really does, try to pull myself out of kind of the black pill, nihilist mindset when it comes to American politics, but that's hard to do right now. Though I'm pretty much a celeb now, LOL, I'm making time to watch 2 of my favorite podcasters. I take some credit in this collab. I mentioned Z on B's show and vice versa. Thank you both for being inspiring, bold, and humble. God is good. I've seen Always Be True in your super chats, and I can attest to this super chatter being one that has pointed me in your direction as well.
Yeah,
and I'm very, very thankful for that.
Yeah.
Big chap, Spider Cash, not Spider-Man Baron. LOL.
All right, I'll allow it. I don't know what it means, but I'll allow it.
Is that okay? So that's not an inside joke from the high IQ outfit that you're familiar
I don't
with.
know that one. Yeah.
Bulletproof Garage. Charlie Kirk brought us all together, both left and right. Appreciate the passion. Freedom is never more than one generation from extinction. It has to be fought for and defended by each generation.
Yeah.
Ronald Reagan. That's a great quote.
Ronnie.
Thank you for sharing that. Are you a Ronald Reagan fan?
I've got a kid named after Ronald Reagan.
There you go. Is it Ronald or is it Reagan?
Reagan.
Nice. Ellie-cast. I love this whole team coming together for intellectual duets. You go, team. This is a spiritual revival. Don't ever back down. I agree. I think there's a spiritual awakening happening, and I think that is being done in favor of Christianity, and I am certainly here for it. Mystic, thank you very much for the gifting of the 10 Zach Costello memberships. Very much appreciated. Thank you. Hey, Baron, it's Kristen Biter. Married last name. Haha. Didn't get to respond to the SC super chat last night. Happy to get you both together. God is working.
I'm glad to know it's a name and not an adjective. But I was scared there for a minute.
You never know with your chat. There's been they're known to make some inappropriate jokes, I guess you can say, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I saw that joke, that other joke that we're talking about came up in the Jesse on Fire member show as well.
Yeah.
About gingers.
Mm-hmm.
I'll let you guys go and check out Baron Coleman's member shows if you really want to know what we're talking about there.
Yeah, they may not know.
They'll have to go check it out.
Yeah.
Zach, thanks for all you do. Keep it up. Thank you. Thank you for the support. I appreciate you. If state uses the gun as evidence in the prelim, don't they have to first show evidence that it was a gunshot wound that killed him? IOW, what is that?
In other words,
the autopsy report and the actual gun, and share with defense.
They'll have to turn both of those over. They'll have to telegraph their plan, and that's obviously going to be their plan, is to show an autopsy report that shows a gunshot wound, death, and the gun that did it. So they'll produce both of those to the defense. They obviously are not wanting to. I mean, assuming this goes to trial, they're obviously not wanting to do that before the preliminary hearing, and I understand why. But it doesn't mean it's right. They should turn it over. But yeah, they'll have to do that. But that doesn't mean the defense just accepts the evidence. I mean, they're allowed to push back.
Do you think that the pushback that the defense's demand of the data, for example, do you think that the prosecution is doing what they need to do and there's enough in order for this to go to trial? To basically, put Tyler Robinson on trial as the one who is the person that should be on trial? Like, do you think the defense did a good job last week? Do you think that they
look, they did a job. Like they made arguments, but if I'm the prosecution, I might be a little nervous standing still on screenshots of text messages and a summary report of a gun. Because if I'm the judge, I look and say, why am I only looking at I can create screenshots at home. I'm not going to give these any consideration. Like that is not evidence to me. So what else do you have? And the standard at the preliminary hearing is the judge has to view the evidence in the light most favorable to the prosecution, but they don't have to just accept everything the prosecution says. They're allowed to use, common sense. Judges are.
Do you think that an effective, I guess my questioning is, it's okay, why is the defense team conceding that this is a gunshot? I would think that in order for this to go to trial, it would have to be, obviously not proven. Proven's not the right word, but it would have to be shown that the individual that is in question, they'd have to show enough to say that he is the right person to actually be on trial in the first place. So as far as, and I think the gunshot is, I guess there's the DNA. I know they were talking about providing the DNA data, which is the reason for the 6-month delay that they were requesting. But do you think that just by questioning the fact that it was a gunshot at all, which would be exculpatory if Tyler Robinson, if they're arguing that he in fact did shoot a gun, would they have to provide more data to back up the fact that it was a gunshot? Is that does that follow, or does that even make sense?
Not at the preliminary stage.
Okay.
A medical examiner coming in and saying it's a gunshot is going to survive.
That's enough. Okay. Got it. 2 high IQ gingers make fire. Go Max, Zach, and Baron. Christ is king.
Christ is king indeed. Yeah.
Let's go. It's been amazing to see all of my favorite high IQ people collaborating so much recently. It makes me think of Proverbs 27:17, one of Charlie Kirk's favorite passages. I see you getting out the Bible. I'll let you do the honors there.
Now, this is a New American version here, so
there we go.
You might. I don't know whether you approve of this either. I'm going to have to go out and buy all new Bibles. I do have a NABRE back there, but it's behind those. 27:17. Oh, this is even smaller type. Iron is sharpened by iron. One person sharpens another.
Love it.
Yeah.
Great verse there. Thank you for prompting that. Fellow ginger here, more on the strawberry blonde side. All right. So
like both of us.
Yeah. So like us, for sure. Sure do appreciate everything y'all are doing. I love this small group of truth-seeking podcasters. Hit that like button, y'all. Christ is king.
Yeah.
Please do hit that like button. It's a very simple and easy way to support the channel. I know what you mean exactly by the phobia of being landlocked. Thank you. I live in Georgia and have the same phobia. Love you both. Keep up the great work. See, I'm not alone in this phobia. Landlocked phobia. I hope you voted no today, Zach. I did vote no on the special election here in Virginia. Before Barron brought my fiance I on as mods, both of our mothers passed. Our families fell apart. We prayed for community, but didn't expect what we have now. These people are like family to me now. We talk daily. Love you guys.
Joel, I didn't know that. I'm thankful you shared that. Thank you.
Yeah, that's come up multiple times on your podcast, and that's, again, it's just a testament to what you've built and the powerful community that you have.
Yeah,
I admire that for sure about you and what you've built. Thank you, Baron and Zach, for working hard to share the truth. It's amazing to see this community united. Love you both. Keep going, Max. Christ is king.
Indeed.
Brandy B, we got you becoming a member. Thank you. Veronica here giving us a super sticker. Thank you for the support. Jim Bear, not going to lie, a collab between you guys and Black Line Brief, Matt McKim, would be insane. Thanks, Jim Bear. I appreciate you. As you all know, I was on Black Line Brief with that panel last week, and it was a good show. Go and check it out. Thanks for the comment. It was a planned for the midterms, but moved ahead because Elon's tweet and Trump saying hoax. That's why trends exploded in July. Take a note, Baron. You know what that means?
Nope. I think that they were saying was if I'm guessing, they intended to remove Charlie Kirk closer to the midterms, but moved it up based on, I guess, Elon's tweet about Trump being in the JE files. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for the comment. I found Baron the day after I found Zach, back when Baron had 10,000 subscribers. You've both been indispensable to me during a dark part of my life. It's been so awesome to see you cross paths recently. Love you both. Amazing. How long ago was it that you had 10,000 subscribers?
October.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible.
I had 3,000 in October also. I think I crossed the 10,000 mark at the end of October, if I remember correctly.
The competitor in me sees your subscriber count, and I'm just like, come on, Zach, let's go. Let's go. Just kidding. Kind of. No, too funny. Yeah, that's incredible growth. I mean, what I think is so incredible about your channel is that not only like the amount of concurrent viewers that you get on your live stream in relation to how many subscribers you have is incredible. Like that metric for you is absolutely incredible. The amount of subscribers that you have that actually tune into your live stream concurrently has to be, I mean, one of the highest that I've seen. I mean, I don't know the metrics as far as YouTube goes, but I mean, what do you average? About 20 to 22 or 23,000 concurrent?
Yeah, I'd say it's pretty good average. A low night will have 17 to 20,000, and on a high night it'll be north of 30. But I would say an average show is 20 to 23, probably 20, low 20s for an average concurrent live.
That's incredible. So I'm just curious because Candace, I think, has maybe maybe almost 6 million subscribers,
Mm-hmm.
and she gets maybe on average, what would you say, like 125,000 on average?
She's
concurrent?
live. Yeah.
What is? I don't know the math off the top of my head, but I'm curious as to your percentage versus that percentage.
Well, mine would be higher because mine's 10%, and 10%
Yours
of
about
hers
10%.
yeah, and 10% of hers would be 600,000 concurrent live.
Yeah.
Now there's something to be said of people subscribing to channels just to be aware of what someone's talking about. So as someone reaches a certain level of fame, Candace, for example, someone will subscribe to Candace just to see the topics scroll through their subscriber feed, or maybe they like the Becoming Brigitte series, so they subscribe, but maybe they're not interested in Charlie Kirk, so they're not watching during this. And if she comes back around to another topic, they'll start watching again. So there's some of that with staying power.
That percentage will decrease.
Yeah. It'll change. Yeah.
Just nerd out about some YouTube metrics for a little bit, you know?
I look at mine every day.
Yeah, me too.
I go into each individual episode and look at how many people watched were subscribers, how many new subscribers picked up during the show. I mean, it's not vanity. It's I want to provide an environment people want to watch.
Yeah, you want the feedback, right?
Well,
right.
I don't want to waste people's time. Like
right.
if can you imagine if somebody tuned in and they spent 2 hours, 11 minutes, and 44 seconds with us already, and they were like, "What did I tune in for this for? I could have cleaned my house. I could have cut the grass. I could have worked on my side gig. I could have washed my car." You know, I would feel terrible for somebody if they tuned in and felt like they wasted their time.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. And I think that pain that you feel in providing something of value makes your show that much better. Was Charlie Kirk crucified? I mean,
Definitively not.
Right. I mean, crucifixion is a specific form of an objective form of death, and no, he was not.
Yeah.
Figuratively speaking, there's a conversation.
Yeah.
Bulletproof again. Charlie texted, "I think they are going to kill me," not "he is going to." That should be evidence enough to investigate all leads. His team failed him.
Yeah, maybe he's progressive and he's using they, them pronouns.
Charlie was known to be a progressive guy that abided by people's pronouns. So
that's right.
Could it have been a false flag gone wrong?
I've entertained that. I don't believe it, but I've entertained it, and I hold out a small percentage of possibility that it could have been a false flag gone wrong. Sure.
All of it stinks, and many in MAGA are just fine with the slop narrative. Thanks, Zach and Barron.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Yeah. I think actually a telltale sign that you're still in MAGA is that you're eating up the slop narrative. I think that's part of the requirements to be in the club nowadays. Thank you there for that super chat. NOK 20. What's NOK? What is that one?
I think it's a Scandinavian currency. Let me look here.
Scandinavian?
Yeah, Norwegian krone.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Barron, is bullet in official autopsy report a fake?
Well, it's not a fake bullet in that I think it's a real bullet jacket fragment. I think they're real lead components of a bullet. The question is not whether it's fake, it's whether it was ejected from a rifle and struck Charlie Kirk in the neck. And I think the answer is no.
Yeah, there's some interesting things that came up. I mean, we know that Dr. Trotter was barred from going back into the operation room. You know,
and
they had him in the car, you know. Yeah.
Ryan Harpold describing opening the wound up, sticking his fingers deep into the wound hole. So there's a lot of opportunity to plant something like that.
Opportunities. Yep. Gingers unite. Let's go. Here we are. Making fire. Why is Erika Kirk and co. allegedly covering up her husband's death? Besides being evil, it is the shady past the feds have on them, afraid for their safety. I'm up talking here because these are question marks. Very concerned for TR and not getting justice for Charlie Kirk. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I think it's self-evident. If the question presumes the answer. I mean, this is literally raising the question or begging the question, because it's the answer is presumed in the question itself. Allegedly covering up. If you're covering up something, you don't want to get caught, right? I mean, that's the whole nature of a cover-up, is that you cover up. So it could be any number of reasons. Afraid for their safety, sure. If you get caught, your safety is at risk. If you get caught, you go to prison. If you get caught, there's all kinds of consequences. So, if you think they're covering it up, obviously all the natural consequences would follow there.
One of the things, so I don't think that Charlie Kirk is alive, but one of the arguments from Jesse on Fire that I find slightly compelling is that he believes that if this many people were involved and it required this amount of coordination, that they were incapable of it. Like, they're incapable of carrying this forward and continuing this cover up. Like, he refers to individuals like Mikey McCoy as, church boys. They're not killers. They're not capable of doing this. What would you say to that?
I think we might have read some additional complexity into the plan that may not be required. Really, all you need to pull it off is a device, a patsy, maybe cooperation from a surgeon or medical examiner, maybe, and then the security team to scurry his body away. So you're talking most 8 people, 12. I mean, if you really want to get wild and throw a few extra people in there, we're talking about people on the scene. You don't need that many.
Yeah, I'm glad that you said that, because I feel like as far as it goes for me, like, I want to play process of elimination. Like, you want as little people to be involved as possible, right? It's like maybe you had a few different movers in it, and then you had a couple different maybe siloed responsibility people, right? That were responsible for different things throughout the day. But I don't want to get too wrapped up in this, because I know we got 11 minutes left here. How do you think Fort Huachuca plays into that, though, as far as like the level of involvement and how many people were involved?
Well, that goes to device, right? If you'd have to procure and test a device, and I think Fort Huachuca goes to the procurement and testing of the device.
So you think that's the purpose of Fort Huachuca and all of this?
Or they're complicit,
yeah, or they're complicit in his death. Yes. It was seeing Bray that led me to notifying Barron.
Notifying me about what?
Did this individual notify you of John Bray?
Maybe.
Or of the explosion? I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know how I came across Bray.
Someone in the high IQ outfit, perhaps.
Could be.
The guy going from hospital to hospital, question mark.
Talking about Zechariah Qureshi, allegedly. Yeah, I mean, again, that could be some sort of isolated player that wasn't even aware there was going to be an event. But, like George Zinn may not have known there was an event, but was told, hey, you'll know when the moment arrives, but stand up, wave your hat, and say you did it. But that doesn't mean he has to be complicit in the actual planning of the event.
Always be true. Mikey McCoy is the weak link. They need to interrogate him. He knows something for sure. He didn't startle when the loud bang rang. He walked off calmly. What does Coach say? He walked off for humanity or something like that. He walked away for all of us, or I forget what you're saying.
Yeah. Mikey is an interesting character in this for me. I will say that for sure.
One of the things we can say definitively is that he certainly didn't act like a hero, like they told us that he did. And he certainly didn't have blood all over him.
Right.
I mean, I've said to you guys before, like, if my loved one or brother was something happened to him like that right next to me, like, you wouldn't be able to keep me away from going toward, like, I don't care if there's more gunshots ringing out. Like, I'm jumping, like, I'm getting on top. Like, I'm not going to put my hands over my ears and walk away and then not even be able to look back at him being carried out to the car. Like, that's crazy. It's not heroic when it all comes down to it.
Yeah. At
the very least. Absolutely love you too. Thanks so much. Kristen. Thank you, Kristen. My thought is the explosion inadvertently deflected on the necklace, which changed its trajectory, diverting from the intended chest wound.
I'm not a fan of that theory, because I think in an explosion, the force is far too great to deflect off of a necklace. I think it would just go through the necklace and continue on its intended path. But what I think could have happened was the necklace, if it was the necklace, could have been sitting in an unexpected trajectory or an unexpected position, or the mic, he's wearing a t-shirt. It could have been laying in an unexpected way.
Mm-hmm. The bullet being captured in the ballistic gel is how they got the, 30, what is that? 30 caliber jacket fragment.
Well, that'd be a three caliber, but
3 caliber.
He's talking about a 30 caliber jacket.
Talking about 30 caliber jacket fragment to plant as evidence. Yeah, I know that's the argument that.
I don't buy that, because when you capture a bullet from ballistic gel, it's basically intact. So there would be no fragment. There'd be no fragmentation at that point. And the rifling on the bullet would be just pristine.
Yeah, this is the hardest part of the John Bray argument that I struggle with, at least.
Yeah.
Did Tyler Robinson's grandpa, I was thinking GPA, we've talked about his GPA in all fairness, say the rifle with Tyler Robinson's prints was his?
I don't recall hearing
I've not seen that.
Yeah.
We can double check with Elizabeth Lane. I don't know if she asked him that. How about the weird way she and them had to have the necklace, then holding it up like a trophy, a bunch of ghouls so involved in a cover-up?
Yeah, it was definitely weird.
Yeah, the way they were scrambling for it and the way that she's kind of had it, and they've shown it in different public appearances since then.
Mm-hmm.
I've been saying, I think, you don't mess with Christ. You don't fool Christ. I think that necklace is gonna play a role in telling us the truth here. Typical prep for, it's Daisy.
That happened yesterday, as a matter of fact.
A typical prep for Real Baron Coleman podcast. Me, hey, what are you doing? B, looking at planes. What are you doing? Me, looking at planes. What do you want to talk about today?
that happened yesterday. She called. She's like, what are you doing? I was like, looking at planes. She's like, yeah, I'm looking at planes. I was looking at planes unrelated to Charlie Kirk. I was looking at planes related to another event.
Too funny. You guys don't know what you've done. We've got people monitoring the skies, man. Yeah. Why is Tyler being represented by a state lawyer when in the records he said that the family want to hire a private lawyer? Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, well, he didn't say we want to hire a private lawyer. He said he wanted to hire a guy. I can't remember his last name, Doug Terry. Doug Terry actually was a public defender. So that too would have not been a private lawyer.
Zach, can you do a quick show and tell of something random from your shelf or studio? A quick show and tell. For example, Barron showed an owl picture from his grandma. Thank you. Well, Barron has got a lot of great stuff that he is gifted from his listeners. I'll show you guys this. So,
well, that was from my grandma.
This is one of my favorite paintings. It's Paul the Apostle from Rembrandt, and I just love how reflective he is. He's almost like straining, maybe experiencing writer's block, trying to find the most effective words to win as many souls as possible for Christ. So this is a very inspiring picture for me, and that's why I have it behind me. So Paul the Apostle.
There you go. Straining.
That's right.
Yeah, I like that. Very descriptive.
I love some good, deep, dark, emotional Christian Catholic art.
Oh, I'll show you one that my daughter painted. Hang on. So this sits on my bookshelf. My daughter painted this.
Wow.
Yeah. Isn't that nice?
She painted that.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. This was several years ago, too. She's 16 now. I think she was probably like 13, 14 when she made that.
I love that. That's incredible. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Obviously looked at something to model it after. But.
Yeah. With the Egyptian planes, no one mentions she wasn't even pregnant when Charlie died. So irrelevant word vomit to cover up. Yeah. I mean, that's why I wanted to show that clip, because I just felt like it was all just a bunch of BS, and I wanted Barron to just comment on it.
You wanted me to be the bad guy. I get it.
I wanted a reaction. I wanted a reaction.
I wanted to be the bad guy.
Oh, I've been the bad guy enough here on my show.
Yeah.
Barron, TP going against gag order to force trial to relocate. OKC bomber was moved to Denver due to tainted jury pool. They are planning something.
I don't know.
Are they violating the gag order? I've seen you and Daisy talk about that.
I think so. The way I look at it,
and the amount that he puts out about it.
Yeah, the way I look at it, they are certainly the spirit of it, if not the actual definition of it.
If someone submitted a FOIA, FOIA request for Tyler Robinson's jail phone calls and emails, would Utah be required to release them? Someone was able to get Joe Duggar's calls while he was in jail, but he was in a different state.
So in Utah, it's called a GRAMA request, GRAMA. File one and let me know what you find out. I'll be happy to cover it if you get the documents.
Whoopsie was a word used by J.E.
Yeah, that's true. That's when someone died.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't give a damn. Man, she's everywhere.
I don't give a damn. She was in here yesterday. I appreciate you. I don't give a damn. And what's funny about that is she entered my chat and I had just watched her YouTube video of her burping. She was watching a video and commenting on the fish burping, and she burped herself. And I was dying laughing. I literally thought that sound was one of the fish burping, and then she comes out and admits it. And I thought that was absolutely hilarious. But I watched that yesterday morning, and then she commented here in the super chat. So yeah, I don't give a damn. Thank you for being here.
I was not a judge, by the way. I read your comment. I was just a mere lawyer.
So is that what she is? So thanks to a new to me host from a fan of the OG humble host, Barron sets the bar high as a Christian man, researcher, judge who walked away from the bench to chase the truth 24/7. Thank you both, plus families, for the sacrifice for all of us.
Yeah, it's a tremendous sacrifice on my family because I do an evening show and it's a lot of time away.
Yep. Thank you. I don't give a damn. Thanks for the support, both of us. We appreciate you. Set your minds on the things above.
Will
Amen.
do. Will do.
That's consistent with Barron's last answer, his piece of advice to me, so that I can relax a little bit as far as all this crazy and evil news goes throughout the world. I missed this live. We'll go back and watch. Love seeing you two together again. My favorite Bible verse is Romans 5:8. I have it up here, so I'll read it real quick.
I know Romans 5.
But God proves his love for us, that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us.
Yeah.
Amen. What a wonderful program. Thank you so much. To listen to Tooth Faithful young men is so refreshing. Thank you.
Young being the operative word there.
Yep. 2 young men here.
Yeah.
What happened to the Tyler Robinson asked for when he was arrested?
Probably the lawyer. And my assumption is that guy was not interested. He retired shortly after that. He wasn't going to get involved in a multi-year death case.
Oh, the lawyer that he asked for when he was in custody.
Yeah, Doug Terry.
Right after his Miranda rights were read to him at 6:25 p.m. on September 11th.
Yeah, I think I'm right about that.
Was Candace doxxed yesterday during her show?
That's the rumor.
I didn't see that. I didn't watch her whole show. I need to go do that. Cheyenne, thank you very much for that generous donation. I appreciate you. I'm late, but just got in from a company meeting. Excited to see what you two talk about. Thank you both for all you do. Dominus vobiscum.
And with your spirit. We got to get you in the Latin mass.
I know. I do need to. My wife is a lot more consistent than I am at getting to the Latin mass.
Yeah.
Isn't the defense attorney related to Terrell Farnsworth?
That's also the rumor.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Thank you for becoming a member. Just say, Julie, I appreciate you. Member shout out. Thanks for the birthday doubleheader. Well, happy birthday, and you're welcome. We got to get this done so Barron can get to baseball and I can get to baseball as well. We got a couple more left. King B, great to see you here. Counsel, Christ is King.
Thank you. Thank you.
Fantastic show. Love you both. Zach's calmness and King Barron's energy are a perfect combination. God bless you both.
The energy. I like that.
And the calmness.
I try to be calm when I'm on other people's shows.
Hello, my Rumble host, and Zach, my brother in faith. Hope God keeping guiding you guys, keeps guiding you guys. Christ is King. A follow from Portugal. Love it. Thank you for being here. On the road, stopping to offer a quickie token. Love y'all.
Sorry,
Jesus love you.
I always yell Edge's name when I see her in the comments.
Oh, you know Edge? Okay, cool.
Yeah, she's a regular.
CK crucified meant figuratively. Thank you both, and honestly, for your kindness to humanity. Yeah, I mean, I think what Tucker Carlson said at his speech at Charlie Kirk's memorial was pretty accurate.
Mm-hmm. You know who else likes hummus?
Sitting around eating hummus. That was good. That was good. Sitting around eating hummus, deciding that this guy who's causing trouble and telling the truth needs to go. There you go. I absolutely love you both. I watch you guys every day. So happy to see you guys together. I have so much respect for you both. Thank you guys. Thank you so much for that. Thanks for the encouragement. Bullets do fragment and gel 100% positive.
Okay.
Man like Baron, next up observing the crankiness. It sounds to me like an awakening moment.
Next step is observing the crankiness. Okay. Thank you.
If prosecution is sticking to the bullet narrative and defense accepting it, and they indicate it was a fragment, where are the rest of the fragments?
Good question. I think that would be a trial issue. Yeah, I think it'd be a trial issue.
The prosecution didn't do a phone extraction, geofencing, etc. on TR's phone, but the defense can. Shouldn't use Celebrite, though.
Do we know they did? They just said they didn't intend to. Well, no. So I don't think that's accurate. If you read the search warrants, they did indicate they were going to use Celebrite. So I don't know that that's accurate.
Last one here, Baron. Why did Cash took videos from hospital? I mean, I think that's why why did the FBI take the videos from the hospital during the doctor cleaning up Charlie Kirk, and why those videos? Will judge allow TR an honest trial? Do you think EK TPUSA bribed jurors for guilty verdict? It's not out of their realm, in my opinion. Christ is King.
I think it'd be very unusual for somebody to bribe jurors. It'd be difficult to do. You'd have to bribe a lot of them and not get caught. Taking the videos from the hospital, I think, is very strange. The FBI stopping the doctor from cleaning up. I don't know if that's been definitively proven, or if somebody just, I don't even know where we got that from. Will the judge allow a fair trial, an honest trial? Judges, like I said, are tremendous gatekeepers, and they have a lot of power over evidence, what evidence comes in. So that's to be determined. We don't know.
Okay, guys. Thank you so much for joining Baron and I today. Baron, I very much enjoyed this conversation. I'm very thankful to you for coming on and blessing us with your knowledge and your expertise and your investigative experience. I know that just about everyone here in the Z Pack, as they've called themselves, very much appreciates you, and we're very thankful for you joining us today. And I'll let you have the last word. I mean, everybody knows where to find you. Real Baron Podcast on YouTube. You can check out Baron Coleman on X. But yeah, take the last word.
Man, I'm appreciative you would invite me into your kingdom here. This is it's been very kind. I've enjoyed the discussion. Your audience is amazing. What a great community you've built here. It's a testament to you, the man you are, and the type of show you run. And yeah, if you want to join me, I'm usually on in the evenings. I usually take Tuesdays and Saturdays off, member shows on Fridays, and then every other evening. So you're welcome to join me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Baron. We'll have you on here again soon.
Thank you. I've enjoyed it.